Oh my God. That tea is gorgeous. Tea is beautiful. We are live according to this. We'll give us all a bit of time to settle in, of course. Obviously, this is the Sunday service. You have to get a little bit of time to cool off and get yourself together so you can be part of the coolest crew in town. Let's see if I can just go into my YouTube stream. There it is there. It seems to be gone a bit weird, actually. Is that it? It is it? It seems to be live. It is live. It's okay. We're okay. God, they're frightened. I was scared there. Just a tiny little bit scared that it wasn't working out properly. But it is. It's okay. We're live. We're in good shape. It's all going to get spread out very soon. I'm going to do a little bit of sharing myself. That's what I'll do. A little bit of sharing on Twitter. So we do that right now. EV backlash right this very second. And we'll share it out again onto... No, I'll share it. Not that many shareways, is there? Doesn't really matter. How are you, Alan, Brad? How's things? Welcome aboard. Good to have you aboard. Please share it while you're in here. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the share button. Share is very important. Tell everybody about it. Since I don't really do Facebook, I hate it. I can't stand the platform. I think it's a horrible little platform, actually. But that's okay, because it's not my problem. Cancel. Why does it add the broadcast? All right. That's a very small button, that add the broadcast button, isn't it? Alex Reynolds is in the house as well. Good to have you. Thank you for the likes and the shares. You're very good. Alex, good to have you aboard. I have a preview window open here somewhere. There it is. Yes, I'm okay. And you're all clicking the little like buttons. You're very good and very welcome aboard. Thank you very much for dropping in. It is, of course, the Sunday service. It is Sunday and we're all up and running and doing stuff. I'm just getting used to the software. I bought the Ecamm Live thing. I've bought a year from that. There's Bavaria. Look at that. Holgi, how's things? Good to have you aboard. Glad to see you there. Adrian Manelli as well. Happy Sunday to Bob and all. You're very good to have you all aboard again. This beautiful Sunday. I was out for a run with my missus earlier on today. It was weird to get out with her. Really very, very, very rare thing for us to get out at the same time on the same run these days, because I'm deeply unfit. I don't know. I'm aerobically okay, but I'm still pretty much overweight. Lockdown killed me for the amount of just food and drink and just general amount of debauchery, I suppose, in its own little way. So it's very difficult to get back and done. We're starting to get back in normal. I fear car ownership will become a premium thing in the near future. What do you think? Yes. Well, ownership, yes. I actually think that the car industry is changing right before our very eyes. You're not even seeing it coming. And really the changes that we're going to be seeing over the next while is how we own a car, your route to purchase. So if you're a dealership, you're going to have a hard time in the future. I know it. I can see it coming because I can see it coming from what's happening within the car industry right now. And it's quite interesting to see what they're doing, because they don't really want you to own a car. They can supply a lot of rental cars. And the primary actual sales channel for car companies is not retail. It's actually commercial. So the likes of Hertz, those big names in the car industry, they buy up thousands of cars, millions of cars worldwide, and just hold on to for 6 months and then they get rid of them. And they're a hire car and they disappear. That's what they're after. That's the business they're looking for. That's the business of the car industry. The actual retail sales of part is, of course, vitally important to car companies, but it's not quite at the same level as the commercial industry. So realistically, imagine if you could have one company here in Ireland that you pay some money to. You give 200 quid a month and they send you a car, whatever car you want, and it's done. It's good. And it works pretty well. So that seems to be a pretty normal thing for people to do. I'm just going to drag down that Bob Flavin thing a little bit at the top there because it's stuck on the time at the top there. Make sure there's nothing covered it. I'm actually, the software I'm using today is Ecamm Live. I purchased a year's worth of Ecamm Live because it is just so easy to use. It is drag and drop stuff. OBS is very good, but OBS, you need a bleeding degree to start messing with things. It's really a pain in the ass. So it's just horrible to do. So I just didn't want to do it that way. So I'd be very grateful if you can share the live here today on your various platforms. You'll find a little arrow there that says share. Click share and send it off to the people who you think would be interested in the Sunday service. Don't be worried. Don't keep it secret. I am not on Facebook currently. I don't use Facebook. I try to stay away from it. I've always complained about Facebook. You all know that. I never particularly liked Facebook in the first place. It's just one of those places. So I don't really do it. Cars and Coffee Portlaoise looked good. It did, Noah. Noah, was a really good day out. Really enjoyed Cars and Coffee Portlaoise. To the best of my knowledge, that'll be the last Cars and Coffee in Portlaoise, as the Plaza Group, or something within the Plaza Group, decided they don't like cars anymore, or at least they don't like Cars and Coffee. And I think that's what's going on right now. There was a little bit of complaining and moaning from the manager there about me talking about petrol prices and stuff as well, and that's okay. That's he decided to approach me. I didn't approach him to complain about petrol and diesel prices and the way I was talking about just the Plaza Group. I literally complained about everybody, but that's some people take one comment and decide that that's the worst thing they've ever heard in their life, and they'll graft it that way. But anyway, that's nothing to do with Cars and Coffee Portlaoise. I just don't think to have it anymore. Aaron Haggerty reckons there's good vibes. That's good to have you. James Bond says, hi, Bob. Good to have you, James Bond. Who's the new James Bond? Isn't your man retired? What do you call him? Daniel Craig. Isn't he gone out of it now? He's finished. And there was a girl in, I can't remember what her name was. I seen the last one. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, in case you haven't seen it. That is. But it's actually pretty good. Listen, if you're around Enniscorthy tonight, is it Enniscorthy Prom? Enniscorthy Prom. At about 6 o'clock, there's a car meet there. It's a little chilled out Cars and Coffee thing. And I'm actually going to it. So I'm going to leave here after Sunday service and drive down to Enniscorthy. About an hour and a half drive down. I have my Polestar 2, which has been a bit of an education one this week, I would say. Paul Glenn's in the house. Good man. Yippee, my favourite. Bob is actually back here as well. Thank you very much. Johnny Dub. Haven't seen that name in a while. Thanks, Johnny Dub. Come in. Nick Smith is here as well. Mark A, I'm using Ecamm Live this week. $197 it costs for a year's worth of Ecamm Live. And I have to say, it's pretty easy to use. Just all happens, and it records the whole thing in 1080p. And then you can upload it as well after that. So it completely comes back out. I didn't take the Pro one. I think I'll see what I need. If I run into a thing where I can't use something and find out it's only in a Pro, I might do it. But other than that, I won't be using anything else at the moment. Craig Russ says, hi Bob, what would you recommend is the best self-charging hybrid? Toyotas make the best at the moment, the ones that are hybrids. They're not self-charging per se. That's kind of the way that they market the idea of self-charging. But I suppose that you don't plug them in is what I suppose self-charging hybrids are. But essentially, they charge from the engine, or they charge from deceleration, recuperative stuff. And it's actually pretty good. They're pretty good at it. Now, Suzuki have entered the market as well, but they've taken Toyota with them. So what Suzuki have done is they've created a new, what they say is a new car. It's not a new car. It's just a Toyota Corolla rebranded as a Suzuki. And they call it can't remember what to call it now. But those ones, they're the king of hybrids. Toyota always has been. PHEV, so plug-in hybrids, are the ones we have to plug them in, and it runs for a certain amount of time on battery and the rest of the time on petrol. I would suggest if you're going to make a good use of a PHEV, you probably just buy an electric car and be done with it. If you're going to go that route, you might as well go all the way into that route. I have driven over 1,000 kilometers in Skoda Enyaq recently. I've driven pretty much 1,000 kilometers in that Polestar. Not very efficient Polestar. My biggest complaint is not the look. It's not the way it feels on the road, right? It's just its efficiency. It's not very efficient. It's getting up around 20 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and that's too high. It's way too high. You could do better than that for sure. I'd buy a Toyota Corolla and be happy forever, or a Camry or something. They're all about the same. David Hanna says, good afternoon, Bob. I've ordered a new BMW 330e reviewing this model. They're really good. They handle very well. We've seen even on this channel videos of the 330e being like easy to chip and make them faster. You can alter the software and mess with them that way. Very, very good car. Really good. But unless you charge them up, they're very heavy on juice. All PHEVs are. If you don't charge them, you're screwed. That's simple as that. You just go wild. So charge up. Make sure you always charge up. I'm gonna mangle your name is the best I can say for you right now. But thank you for I've been following for 3 years. First time on the stream. Always happy to see you in my upload from Slovenia. I think that's Matches. Is it? Could be wrong. I always mangle the overseas name. Thank you very much for all the likes, though. Click on the like button and share the broadcast well. Bring in some people here who wouldn't normally maybe drop in. Maybe they don't even know it exists. It's just a place for people to hang out and have some fun. If you want to support the channel, you can support the channel. There's a list of links down below in the comments. The PayPal and the Patreon ones are there as well. You can support it directly on the stream as well with the little tips and stuff that YouTube allow. But long term, guys, will do Patreon or PayPal. You can do either one of them. I've upgraded my whole system here. There's a MacBook Pro. It's connected to a bigger screen here. I have Rode mics attached to me as well and wireless keyboards and stuff. So really have put a lot of effort into upgrading all of the live stream part of it. And that comes from the funding you guys supply. So thank you very much. It's glad to have you all aboard as well. Stream is looking well. It does look well, doesn't it? I tell you, Ecamm Live, it's not cheap, but I like to get value for money. And I tried it for a week with the Ecamm logo up the top. The Ecamm logo is gone now because I paid for it. It's about $200, which is the same in euro. Euro and dollar are on a parity now. That's scary. That is very scary. It used to be like €150 for $200, but now it's the same. So it's kind of weird. What will happen on the secondhand cars if most people start leasing? We just won't. The same thing that's happened in secondhand cars now. They go through a system about 10 years, 15 years, and they just disappear. They get scrapped. They get sold overseas. They get sent away to be broken up into pieces. That's generally what happens all secondhand cars over time. I mean, how many cars do we have on the road that are 20 years old? It starts to bring down the amount of cars, and then 30 and 40 and 50 years old, less and less and less. And anything upwards of 100 years, there's only one or two of them left. There'll be very little. So car ownership is kind of a strange thing. It's getting a bit weird now. The idea of going into a dealership and buying a car that you own and you keep it and then you sell it as an investment into buying another car that you own, that metric, I think that's got like 5 years. I really do think that's only got about 5 years. If you're a dealership and you're really not paying attention to this, I think you're going to be in deep trouble in a very short space of time when you realize you're overstocked. Now, secondhand market, different story. People buy things very cheap, 20 grand cars, 15 grand cars, 10 grand cars. Those kind of ones I think will last a long, long, long time. But going in to buy a brand new car and trading in your secondhand car on it as ownership thing, I think that's got a very short future. Maminsk is here. Hello, Bob. Since many of us drive less for work, is there a certain mileage threshold where petrol cars are still superior to EVs environmentally? Not really. So if you take away how they're charged and you're just left with the car, the thing in front of you, the emissions are essentially zero, apart from tire wear and, the usual sort of air conditioning things. I suppose there's some kind of emission of it, but realistically, pardon me, there's nothing much coming out of an EV that a petrol car could do. So environmentally. Now, if you're using a car every day and you want to have some fun, there's still very few electric cars around that are actually much fun. I find pretty much all of them kind of soulless. There's no real passion in the car. Very few of them have any of that sort of stuff. So petrol cars is very easy. Even the most basic, like Volkswagen Up, has some sort of personality to it, whereas electric cars don't seem to have that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean it's not necessarily a bad thing. You might like that. But if you're going from an environmental perspective, electric cars are far superior. But where they get the fuel from, where we're making electricity, maybe that's not so good. There's gas, there's turf, there's coal-fired. There's all kinds of problems with that part. But that's not something you can control. Realistically, the cars are pretty clean at this stage. So there's nothing else really out there. Now, if you're driving for work, different story, big mileage, or you might be driving a van, electric cars just aren't there yet. When it comes to van stuff, don't worry about it. Stay away from it. Stay with diesel for the moment on the vans. Just drive yourself nuts trying to get some place to charge it. Car ownership is going the way of music. There was a time you bought a single or an album. Now at Spotify, just pay a monthly fee. Correct, James Connolly, which changed the music industry. By the way, if anyone knows, I'm really looking for 4 tickets for the Gorillaz Industry Arena. 4 tickets. Cash waiting. Don't care. Just want 4 tickets for a birthday present. Very important. Anyway, but if you spread the word, I'm really looking for those 4 tickets. I put it out on my Instagram as well today. Really need them. It's for my kid's birthday. They're big fans. And the guy who was getting me the tickets said it was no problem. He's going to get the tickets, no hassle at all. Get that all sorted out for you. I got passes and things. Turned out to be, well, no good. He just let me down completely on it. And now I'm up in the air on a birthday present. So I'm going to try and get something for myself. But the Gorillaz, 17th of August, 3 Arena. So I'm looking for 4 tickets. Anyway, forgetting about it. Yes, you're right. But the thing about that changed the music industry from Spotify is that basically these artists who would have otherwise gotten a record deal where they could be funded to do something for 4 or 5 years and create three albums or whatever, that deal started to go away. And so they were able to publish it themselves directly out onto Spotify. Now, the problem is a million streams was getting them 500 quid. so Spotify was making a lot of money, and the artist was making very little. And that still stands today. Pretty much Spotify is pretty dismal about paying their artists any sort of good amount of money per stream. Now, how that works with the car industry is obviously pay a leasing fee. But it's just, it'll come down to choice then. It comes down to what one you want to actually do it, what you want to buy, you know. There's Mark, and Mark is in Melbourne. Come on, Mark, good to have you aboard. I'm glad you're streaming over Melbourne. What time is it there? Do you have any plans to review the Honda E? It's one EV I would just justify. It's already on my channel. That has already come out. Honda E is there. We've had that. We've had the Fiat 500 as well, which is the Honda E in a Fiat form. I would buy the Fiat 500. I think it's a gorgeous car. Honda E looks gorgeous. It's cute in a sort of a Android-y sort of way. Like, it looks like an Android or something. It's kind of cute, but I think those screens are going to age. I think those screens are going to be the letdown in the future. If you think how fast the screen in your phone changes, you know how fast those screens, you get a brand new phone, it's OLED or whatever. I don't understand the screen thing, but it's got more lines, more dots, more something in it. Same on your laptop, same on your computer. You upgrade these things, better refresh rates, all that sort of stuff. You can't do that with a car. It's going to be much more difficult. So I would go with the Fiat 500 version of the Honda E and be happy out. It's a lovely little car. Range isn't brilliant, but a lovely little car. Short range cars have their place too in cities, I would suggest. There's Robert Mulhall. Good to have you aboard. Gar Talbot is coming as well. Hey, Bob, thinking of upgrading the estate. SUV, silly money, less space. I think the estate will be the better drive too. Thinking of Skoda or Corolla. Anything else we would consider? I would go Skoda. They make great estates. Skoda Octavia, Skoda Superb, both brilliant estate cars. Never had a problem with either one of them. Corolla is very good. Whether I could... Yeah, Corolla is very good, actually. Corolla estate is actually pretty... Not a bad car. It's petrol, obviously. It depends on your mileage per year. You might want a diesel. Toyota's always petrol now. So that day is gone. I wonder, is there a way of pushing down... Oh, there is a way of pushing down. Is that too high? Did that mean they'll think that the text is too high or too big or something? Seems to go off the side of the screen a little bit. Can I make that a little bit smaller, a little bit taller? I can be God. I might screw this up now. Sorry, I'm moving things around on the screen. While we're live, we're moving stuff around the screen. Let's move it down as much as it's not quite covering my chin. It's always good, huh? Anyway, so there's Gar Talbot on the screen. Yes, I would certainly be very happy in a Corolla or a Skoda estate. Wayne Follett says, afternoon Bob, looking well, pal. MG4, 26 grand, 26,000. What's your thoughts? MG make nice cars. Never had a problem with MGs. I had one here for 4 months and it was a lovely thing. But you get what you pay for. So a reasonably priced car is reasonably priced for a reason, right? So it's the same when you're looking at Dacia or you're looking at Renault or one of these kind of reasonably priced things that fit in there. The reason they're reasonably priced is quite simply that they're going to lower the standard in some parts of the car. So when you're looking at MG4, it's good value for money because it's reasonably priced compared to other electric cars. And the battery technology is the same essentially across most of the cars, just not quite as efficient. And the materials used in the car feel a little bit cheaper. And that's quite normal for those kind of cars. But I didn't have any problem with MG. And I do have an MG, the long range one, coming later on the year for a test. So haven't tested too many of them. They just weren't on the fleet very long because they get sold out. That's what I think it's Harris Group brings MG into the country and they just sell them. They're just gone as quick as a flash. Nudge, wink, wink says, hi Bob, with the new and used prices the way they are, what car would you buy at the moment or would you even think about? I wouldn't buy one. I'll be dead honest with you. I would hang right now. I would wait till October, November this year before I even start looking because I can see the price of the car starting to go down. If you're a keen viewer of the price of vehicles, not new cars, used cars. I seen a report in the paper the other day, funny enough, written by someone who sells used cars, who said that the used car prices will continue to escalate and be maintained. This just isn't true. Supply has dried up. People don't necessarily want to buy a car. Cars are at an all-time high price. and nobody wants to buy them. That's what's really going on. The price is going down. You're going to have to pay attention. And most of that is coming from the private sale market, not the used car dealership market, which the price has been maintained quite well there. So I would wait till October, November this year, somewhere around there. I'd even wait at this stage till January or February of next year until supply improves, and then you have some chance of buying some cars from private sales, from Done Deal or whatever, So I would hang about for that one. I wouldn't be jumping on it just right now. GP O'Rourke says, hi Bob, I have a 2022 petrol CX5. Good car, yeah. I drive very little, about 25 to 30 euro petrol per week, max 40. Surely it's worth the extra expense of buying an electric car with that mileage. As tax is 280. For that kind of money, yes. It's still taking a long time to see that back. So this isn't... electric cars are not the transformative money pits that people think that they are. So what I don't mean to kind of put you off. Electric cars are really good and they're pretty affordable in places, but you're not going to see a huge difference in your bills unless you sell all of your other ICE engine cars. So if you transfer yourself completely into electric, then you'll see a change as long as you charge at home. But if you charge on the streets, you go out to the public charging network, you're probably going to spend as much as you would have on petrol. Like I charged up on a public network a couple of weeks ago down in Limerick. I put 15 quid in and it got me 200 kilometers. Right, that's it. So it was really very little amount of kilometers I got out of that charge on a 150 kilowatt charger because it was only charged at 50. So there's a bit of a balancing act. If you're going to charge at home all the time, you'll probably save money if you have a good. You could go on night rate in your meters. You can maybe put in a solar panel. You can save all sorts of ways. And people who have solar panels, who are charging their cars from that, are actually getting free fuel. So you can do that as well. Like it's totally possible to do that kind of thing into it. So, take it with a grain of salt. I wouldn't necessarily weigh it all up from money. I'd weigh it up from what I need from a car because the investment level for getting into electric car is quite high. So you're going to have a long, long jump up. Are you going to Cannonball this year, Andrew and Tipperary? We've applied, Andrew. I believe the application's gone in for Cannonball, but I was very late putting in the application, so I don't think there's going to be space on Cannonball for me this year. I will be taking part if anyone wants to join that with the Bumblebee. We are going to Scotland for 3 days. It's called On the Lock, and you'll find it on the Bumblebee 1000 Instagram account. And I think there's a couple of spaces left if somebody wants to come along. It's $2,500 for the weekend and your car. We're taking a ferry from Belfast over to Scotland. We're going to spend 3 nights staying in Scotland and messing around on the roads up there. And we're hoping to go up to do the James Bond drive and do all that stuff as well. It'll be very cool. I need a car for that. I have to make a phone call to get a car. I don't have a car for that yet. But I think I'm too late for Cannonball. I think Cannonball is I just have a feeling Cannonball's sold out. Ross Franey says, Bob, Model 3 long range versus standard. I wouldn't bother with long range. If I'm honest with you, I'd just buy the standard one. You're going to save a shed load of cash. And they do almost the same range. You can pretty much get away with everything. Price used to be closer now, but I think the Grand threshold is pushed down this year. It's 15k difference. Yeah, that's the problem. Is the Grand stops at 55 grand? Is it? I think once the car's over 55 grand, the Grand just disappears off it. Which is why the Nissan Ariya, there's one of them, it's 48 grand, and the other one is closer to 70 grand. So it's like the long range one is 70 grand because it just falls outside the Grand level. But actually, what you're looking at there as well, Ross, is the real price of that car, the actual price. We shouldn't be granting EVs. And I know this because, thank you very much to, I don't know who that was. Hold on, it's not telling me who it is. Gareth Talbot. Thank you very much, Gareth Talbot, for the submission to my PayPal. Very kind of you. You can do the same if you want. Links down below. If you're happy with the broadcast and you like what you see. Plus, I have to pay for that Ecam Live. Anyway, you're seeing the real price of cars. I don't think they should be granted. I spent a few nights in Oslo recently talking with Kia and the group behind them, and we ended up speaking with people in charge of the EV systems over there. Very interesting conversation as to how they got where they're getting. It took 9 years. It took 9.7 billion euro. And they've stopped the grants. The grants just aren't operational. They got rid of that. They thought it just wasn't working. People could buy the car. They could just buy the car, and that's the end of it. So I would suggest we need to get rid of our grant system here. But, as the Model 3 suggests, check your build quality. The technicalities, the batteries, technology, and the software is pretty good behind the cars. Hardware is not deadly. But I struggle to tell the difference between the long range and the standard range cars, because it just didn't seem, long range is not as long a range I think it's going to be. Jared Hewitt on Twitter, he has a Model 3. He'd be worth talking to. Mr. Return last week, Jim Shed is in the house. Mr. Return last week, listened to while doing my service in Dublin. Good man. Welcome back to Regards to everyone. Jim Shed has landed again. Thanks, Jim Shed. He sticks around every single week. You're very good. Where do you stand on plug-in hybrids? Useful compromise or tax dodge? A tax dodge. Essentially, they're a tax dodge. As far as I know, or as far as I can see, people aren't really charging these plug-in hybrids. I know that I even do it myself. I bring home a plug-in hybrid here. It's full when I pick it up for electricity. I bring it home. I forget to charge it. I jump in and start and just drive off. I don't think about the chargey bit. Sometimes I remember to press the button to make the car charge itself, but that burns extra fuel. So it's kind of, you're just dodging a tax. They're just dodging tax. They're just getting their emissions down. That sort of stuff is happening all the time. Realistically, if you can make a PHEV work very well, so if you're sitting at home, you're charging it up every day, and you're driving it to work on your electric thing, and you never have any problems, you probably should have bought an electric car and be done with it. Just buy a full-time electric and don't worry about it ever again. I know I've had some problems here with the charger. I spoke with Des Mulhare the other night. He's going to change out my charger. He thinks there might be something wrong with the heat in it. I also think it's heat outside in general. But there might be something wrong with the heating element inside the EV box, so he's going to swap it out for another one. Gives me a chance to test a different charger as well, which is quite nice. It just seems to be cutting in and out, and the other night I didn't charge the car up full at all, and it's had some problems with it, and I think it's heat. But PHEVs are only good if you charge them up all the time. Then you have some hope going on. Thank you very much to everyone who's come in. There's 130 of you here now. It's really good. Don't forget to share the live. Very important to share the live. That always helps. It's also important to subscribe while you're here. Subscribers is what we're looking for at all times. But we want people who are invested in the subscribe, not looking for just people who are going to come and go out of the thing. We want people who like the idea of the Sunday service or like the idea of the channel and what they're doing. And we're going to try and do many more of these, as many as we possibly can. Might not be here next Sunday, but I'll put that on my Instagram. If it's not going to happen, it'll be on Instagram. If it is going to happen, it probably won't be on Instagram because I only started just live and be done with it. Where was I? This one. Can't get there from here. That's a good username. I like that. In my experience, only one PHEV and 2 EVs. I'd suggest getting a charging setup sorted at your house or apartment, and the first priority, your thoughts. This is true. Without being able to charge at home, all of this is null and void. You're at nothing unless you can charge at home. Because when you charge on the streets, you spend as much, if not more, money on electricity than you would have on diesel, on the equivalent diesel. So I would suggest getting a charger in home with a matter of urgency. Now, to do that in Ireland, I know this system is going to change eventually. You have to get a grant in Ireland. So you can't just put the charger in and then apply for the grant. You have to buy the bloody car as well. So you put a charger in, you buy the car, and you take a picture of the car beside the charger, and you send it into the... Anyway, they're changing that setup as well. But currently, it's kind of annoying getting a charger in at home at the moment. So take that with a grain of salt at the moment. We will be doing another talk. So I will be on stage this year in the Ideal Home Show in autumn. I'm already booked for that, and we will have the grants guys there. We'll have Hyundai is going to be there, Volkswagen, Cupra. They're all coming along again, so even more of them. Volvo, I think, are bringing their stuff, or maybe Polestar are bringing their stuff as well. So there'll be stuff that everybody will bring on the Ideal Home Show this year. So grab your ticket for that, because I will be on stage for every day for the 3 days at different times. So the times are a bit wild. Usually, sometimes it's 11 o'clock in the morning, other times it's 12:30. So, but there'll be talkers throughout the day. I'll be one of those talkers. If you've got questions about anything to do with electric cars or installing stuff at home, I'll get you in touch with the right people if I don't know what I'm doing, right? But certainly, you do need a home charger, and I think you'd be really remiss of me not to mention that if you don't have a home charger, you're buying a PHEV or you're buying an electric car, you are going to spend a lot more money on those cars by charging them on the street all the time. Yeah, so charge them at petrol stations or charge them at train stations or whatever. It's just going to cost a bloody fortune on you. Matiz says, Daisy Jogger won't fall in price, never ever. All I want is car, 17 grand. Daisy Jogger is a good car, it really is. I've had one here on test. It's a 7-seat car, And it's just good. It's just an honest car. Yeah, it's a little tiny bit thirsty, maybe tiny bit underpowered, but I can forgive all that in a blink of an eye because it's just so good to drive. It's a nice car to drive and really cheap as well. Paul Byrne points out that a Dacia Jogger is not safe in carrying children, most likely. So the Dacia Jogger, what happened at Dacia or Dacia there? Dacia is probably the real name. Dacia submitted their car to the Euro NCAP rating. And the Euro NCAP rating changed the way they rate cars. So every year, the NCAP rate moves. So my car in 2006 got 4 stars in the NCAP rating. It failed on pedestrian. The bonnet's not long enough so the pedestrian head would hit the windscreen. So it got 4 stars. Now, 2 years later, that would have gotten 2 stars because they changed the NCAP rating in 2010. Then they changed it again in 2015. So it would have got 0 stars if the same car was tested in 2015. So that's what happens all your cars. So all your cars you were sold with 5 stars don't have 5 stars anymore. That whole thing changed. It completely altered as time has moved on. So even though it got 1 star or got 2 stars or got 3 stars, in 2 years' time it would have got none anyway. It really doesn't matter. So I would suggest that if you look very carefully what it lost the stars on, it was to do with the position of seats and seat belts and things inside. I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I'd say you'd probably be as safe in a Jogger as you would be in pretty much everything else. It is safe. Look at Dacia Sandero Stepway. Look at that score. That's true. Clio 5. Renault has always built their cars to pass the NCAP rating. They've always been very good at passing the NCAP rating. They did it for a long time. Dacia, not so much anymore. They get 1 star because of the last 2 seats. It's a 7-seater. It's only because there are 2 extra seats in it. It is kind of stupidness to it, but I suppose people do buy cars based upon a safety rating. The big issue is VRT. Grant is just a VRT reduction. No, there is a grant, Mick, an actual €5,000 grant, which you've spent about €62 million of taxpayers' money has gone directly to very wealthy people to buy electric cars. Why do I say very wealthy people? Because the early adopters of electric cars are people who tend to work in the technological industries of some sort. They tend to be people who earn about 100 grand a year. They tend to be younger generation people in very techie jobs like Google and Apple and all those kind of places. They were the ones who bought into the electric car race very quickly. They paid a very high price for that. They were the ones who got the €5 grand grant. So that's €5,000 that gets a grant from the government, then a €5,000 reduction or rebate in the VRT, of which the car company puts that as the price. So if the car is 60 grand, they advertise it as being 50 grand. That's what they do. So it's kind of a weird one, but it's absolutely true. We have spent over 62 million euro of taxpayers' money to fund what electric cars we have on the market at the moment. So now, there you go. That's it. Do you prefer Model S long range or performance? Performance is very good. I like the performance one, but it's not very performance-y. It's 0 to 60 times. So bear that in mind. The handling of that car is no better than the other cars in the range. It's just able to get there much quicker. So they turned up the speed of how fast the car gets from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. It's lightning. It's actually scary. I know people who are buying into these cars. Their first car is a Model 3 or a second car is a Model 3, and they're stepping into a thing that has the performance of a Ferrari, and they're just buying and they're let loose on the road. But it's got the 0 to 60 time of something really exotic, like it's crazy stuff. Dangerous in my opinion as well. If the fuel price will hit €3 per litre, it won't. It won't even get near that. But yeah. Will it be the game for internal combustion? Will it be the end game? It is already the end game. Do you see fuel shortages winter or maybe next year, similar to 1973 crisis? There might be a fuel shortage. It won't reach €3. €3 is ridiculous. Never going to happen, fortunately, thankfully. Because nobody can afford that. There isn't a single person on the road today who can afford over the €2 mark. I don't actually know why you're not out protesting a bit harder than that. But anyway, let's suppose it reaches $2.50 a litre or $2.25 a litre as it reached before, right? So fuel shortage will change how we do business. Now, the fuel shortage affects you, not because you can't go to work, but it affects deliveries. So it affects as I said last year, it affects the entire system, the whole ecosystem of how we get food, how we get produce to the shops, how we do deliveries, how you order stuff from Amazon, how you get things moved from China. It affects all of those things, and that's where you're going to have the biggest problem. I don't think we'll ever see the Qs, the 1973 Qs, which is more affected the US than us. But there was massive queues down the road for what little fuel you could. But we did see that recently in one of the Middle Eastern countries got itself into trouble there a bit for a while. Sri Lanka, was it maybe? They had a massive problem recently about fuel shortages, cost of living there as well. The cost of living here is huge as well. It's like it's a crazy run we've got going on right now. There's a lot going on, and I actually think the human race knows too much. That's really the problem. We should know more about our local stuff, about what's happening in the country, but we really don't. We're just kind of concentrating outside of ourselves the whole time. We're always turning on Twitter or TikTok or something, and we're seeing a disaster in another country. Still calling for peace in Ukraine, obviously. Still should be sitting down. There should be negotiations at this point. They should be talking to one another. They don't seem to be talking about an end of aggression there, which would bring us all back online, bring it all back to kind of normal. We don't seem to be getting anywhere with that. You'd imagine at some point someone would go, well, do you want to talk about the end of this war? Do you want to give that a shot at some point? That would be really handy. But all I see right now is Biden sending over more weapons, which doesn't seem to help. Watch Before You Buy says, I think Hyundai and Toyota have a better idea of hydrogen fuel cell. I'm hoping to buy a low mileage diesel in 2 years and have that until above becomes reliable. You have to get hydrogen as well as the other part. Hydrogen fuel cell has its own drawbacks, its own problems. I'm not sure it's going to reach the general public in the next 10 years anyway. There's such a push right now on electric. I just think there's just such a shove forward the whole time for electrically powered cars that I'm not sure that we're ever going to see anything even interesting come out of hydrogen, whether it can work or not. I mean, we've been talking about hydrogen. How long have we been talking about hydrogen now? Like, so long about this part. I remember James May went over to America to drive a Honda Insight or Honda something. That was hydrogen at the time. And at that point, you're talking about, that was 2008 or 9 or something. Like, that was a long time ago. Eric Rocher says, any big international trips coming up? Not for the next little bit. Kind of towards the end of the month, I'm going on the ID Buzz first drive. So I'll be on that. That's an interesting one. I'm kind of curious. A lot of buzz around the buzz. I'm not sure it's going to be the big game changer everyone thinks it is. I really don't, because the battery technology underneath is still the same. Like, they've changed. It's like everyone getting excited about, I don't know, the latest fastest car that's ever come out of Bugatti, but they're still using a W12 engine. It's the same engine, so it's the same everything underneath, just changing the look. And that's what the ID Buzz is doing. What I'm more curious about is it's because they did this with VW Up. So when they launched the Up, they had the Swiss Up, and they had the E Up, and they had the D Up, and they had all these different versions of the car that they could do, put skis on the roof and put the snow chains on, all that stuff. That's, I think, what they're doing with the ID Buzz at the moment. They're trying to get something done with it that makes sense for everyone now, in the way that people do business right now. But I just don't think they're actually there yet. But we'll see how it gets on. But ID Buzz is coming up, yes, and there is, of course, my trip over to Scotland with Bumblebee 1000. They're coming. We're going to be going to Scotland. No idea what the car is, but if you're in Scotland, we're coming over. Hi, Bob. Have Kia stopped selling the e-Soul in Ireland, not on their website anymore? Yes, they have. You can't get them. Just can't get stock of anything. That's really what's going on right now. Plus, new models have come out as well. So they've brought out the new Nero, which is fully electric, or a PHEV one. They dropped the E bit of that, and the EV6. So the Soul was actually a kind of a leftover one that kind of just made its way into the electric brand. And the Soul was actually a petrol and diesel car. Then they made it electric. My favorite looking car at the time was the Soul. I thought, look, in the two-tone one, it looked like a stormtrooper's helmet. 4D Modding has dropped in. Hey, how are you doing? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Dacia sell a Duster bi-fuel. It's basic spec, but cheap to buy. They sell it in Ireland. They do sell, so they do, on certain models, Dacia do a petrol, and they also do the gas, the LPG. So they have that on a lot of their cars now. And trust me, LPG is very cheap, but you have to find a station that sells it. There is one here in Portlaoise. Well, not Portlaoise, it's out in Emo. So it's on the motorway. The problem is it's totally different when you're filling up. You have to screw in a thing and turn it all on and fill it all. It's a kind of an odd way of filling it, but you will save a fortune. I think it's 68 cents or 70 cents per litre. So it's not it's not expensive. So if you're buying a Duster or you're buying I don't know if it's on the Jogger, it might not be on that, but it was on the Sandero as well. They're doing the biofuel thing, and it will pick up. You'd be surprised. Jim Shed says, I have my new GTX 6 weeks now, and I'm delighted with it. However, I agree with Bob. If you want an EV, then get a 7.5 kilowatt home charger. Public charge points are very expensive. Very expensive. Now, for the first time ever, I was up in rally school the other day, and I brought that Polestar for me. Now, to put that in context, rally school is about 2.5 hours drive from me here. It's under 200 kilometers, but not far under 200 kilometers. So when I got there, the Polestar said I had 52% of my battery left. So technically, if you think about that, I started with 100, now I have 52. I could just drive around, just turn around and go home. But I thought while I'm there, I'll plug it in because I'm filming a TV show. So it's going to be there for a few hours. So I took out my granny cable out of the front and plugged myself into a 3-pin socket. Straight away, 10:30 in the morning. 3-pin socket, left it at that, jumped back out, did all my driving around rally school, messing around with all the boys. We had great crack. We spent hours and hours and hours filming stuff up there. I'll show you the trailer when it comes out. We're hoping it's going to be a really good thing. Myself and Dave O'Queeve are making a thing with Hedgehog v Badgers production company. And when I came back to the car, which was then about 6 o'clock, so I'd been charged from 11:30 to 6 o'clock, I'd gained about 18% battery. That's it. Only a small little bit. So it wasn't really much, but while I was there and I was able to get the electricity, I did. Everything got a bit warm, so the plug tops and all got a bit warm, but it was actually pretty efficient. It did its job. It was only 3 kilowatt maximum is what 1.5 kilowatt or something is what a plug can put out before it starts overheating. So I didn't do it for the whole time, but I wouldn't advise it. Don't charge with a 3-pin plug at home. It's not worth it. Put in a proper one. It's much better. RV, VRT grants, fair answer times, no problem. DJ16. Do you think they will ever remove a tax, NCT, and insurance list with a windscreen and have a number plate like the UK? Yeah, there's no reason to actually have them there. The only good reason that I've talked to some Gardaí about was that you've a cause to have a chat. So on the side of the road, when they stop you, guards are analysing what they're looking at. So it's not just the car that they're looking at. They're trying to look at you and what's happening in your car and how things are there. So the interaction, the conversation is what they're looking for as well. And so it would take it away. It would take away that if you took away all of this out of the window, because the car, they just scan the reg plate and that would be the end of it, But they can actually do your license into a system as well to see if you're banned from driving, and they can do more stuff on the side of the road. But there's no reason to have this there anymore, really. I know the NCT is the NCT, but don't get me started on how bad the NCT is. Is VRT expensive on electric cars like Audi? Well, VRT is a percentage of the value, so it doesn't matter what the car is powered by. It's kind of a percentage of the options and values and things that they put on the car that make it the price it is. So it does distort our cars here by a long, long way. The price of any car here is massive distortion on the price of it because of our VRT. You're all so used to VRT, you're still paying it, and nobody's talking about it. Everybody's still giving out about it. VRT is terrible, but you're doing nothing about it, actually. Really. Nobody ever complains. John Byrne says, well, Bob, my BMW G30 is due a tyre change. Have you any experience with moving from run flats to non-run flats? I do. I'm aware that I need a repair kit, but interested in difference in ride quality. It's night and day, John. In my experience, and BMW do their best to convince me otherwise, that run flats are better now and it's not as bad. I still reckon run flats are terrible. I think they're too hard. I think they have a funny way of behaving on the road and really annoys me. The minute you change away from run flats to standard tires, you will definitely notice a difference instantly. I would suggest do it urgently, just get it done. And they're cheaper. Run flats are very expensive, and you don't need to go to a specialist to get them. You can just get them in any dealership anywhere. Change over from your run flats and you will definitely notice a difference in comfort and ride quality and even quietness within the car. Sniper Patch says, I'm sticking with diesel. Eventually you're not going to have a choice. That's what I think is actually going to happen eventually. There's just not going to be a choice in the matter, and you're just going to have to. They're either going to raise the tax on diesel itself or raise the tax on the fuel or raise the tax on the cars. One or the other is just going to drive you towards. That's what they should do, really, if they want to drive you into it. But my own hope is that it's all true, that everything I've learned over the last 5 to 10 years about electric cars is actually true, because the stuff I learned about diesel cars was false. I mean, it was lies, just downright lies, what they told us about diesel cars. And so I hope that that's not happening again with electric cars, that there's enough going on that people are actually paying attention and they're getting the correct information. Because the last thing we want to do is 5 or 6 years from now, I found out electric yokes are far worse for the environment than we ever thought they were. Like they found out about diesel, and we end up in this bad situation. Then we're going, well, you just all lied again. Same thing again. Thank you for liking and subscribing. 160 of you here now is great. Thank you to everybody who's turned up today to ask all your questions and do your stuff. Please make sure you click the like button and the share button and share it out to someone who you think might be interested in doing this. Hit the subscribe button. There's a list of links down below if you want to actually give me a tip of some sort. If you'd like to buy me a beer, you can do that sort of stuff. It's all listed down below, please, if you can. We got to pay for all the stuff that we do all the time. I'm trying to make sure that bar doesn't go out the bottom of the screen, which is why I keep shifting it over ever so slightly a little bit. It's taking out your icons there. Anyway, John Burns says, any good car shows coming up? There's a few. Mondello's going to host a few as well, but you can also tonight, if you want to, I'm going down to, where am I going to? I forget now. It's on Leinster Car Scene are hosting a thing tonight. Hold on now, I get there. I'm good at this. You know, I'm so professional at this sort of thing. In Enniscorthy. So Enniscorthy Promenade tonight, Leinster Car Scene are hosting an event. I'm going to that. Just going to drop down. It's just a little park and chill thing. That's tonight. There is other ones coming up in Mondello as well. Dave Egan and the guys up there, they're hosting a couple of drift events. There's Heatwave as well as on this year. Again, I don't know if we're going to make Heatwave. I think I have to fly out to the ID Buzz on the same day as Heatwave. So I'm not sure I'm going to make that. Because I don't know what time your flights are at. Flights could be 7 o'clock at night. It could be 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. But it's on a Sunday anyway. Any sign of a European equivalent to the F-150 Lightning EV seems interesting and capable if the Ranger size version existed. Well, people want those big cars, funny enough. But I don't know if you've driven an F-150, but they're enormous. Like, they're so big. It's like a crazy size thing. It's like a tank. And they brought an electric version of that, which is a good thing. No problem with the electric version of it. But how far you go with them huge wheels and huge tires and pickup truck thing in an electric car, which is not terribly efficient for long driving in the first place because they're very heavy batteries. I'm not sure. But I know we're supposed to get a few bits and pieces from America, but I'm not sure Ford have never brought out the F-150 over here anyway in Europe. So I don't know if they're going to bring the electric version of it. They never bought the Ford F-150, the standard one, because it's too big and it was environmentally terrible. Even though they have a better thing with NOx over there. S-Cal says, well, Bob, look at a 16 Ford Galaxy 2-litre diesel, it's power shift box. I heard some horror stories. Any input? Power shift in Europe never really had a big problem. It was power shift in Australia. Ford was brought to court about it. It was more to do with the power shift box drying out inside, but it's actually a sealed unit. Never heard much of a problem with them here. I've always enjoyed power shift. It's every bit as good as DSG from Volkswagen. So I've never really had a problem with it. You could try it out anyway. Galaxies, if you're looking for 7 seats, there's very little else compares to a Galaxy. They're very well built, but be very careful of one single thing, and that is that they are treated very harshly. So family cars like the Touran, the Galaxy, the Charan, or any of those cars, they're treated awfully, obviously by families just buried into it. So make sure you test absolutely everything in it. Make sure all the lights are working. Make sure the air conditioning is working. Make sure the car changes gears in a nice way. Just to be very careful with those sort of things because they can get very expensive very quickly if something goes wrong. So do your research. Do a check on motorcheck.ie. You can do a check there as well. Make sure you know the history of your car before you buy it. We have found some very surprising cars over the last while. So please be very careful of your car history. Just go and check them out. I just moved that now and I'm after screwing it up. Hold on. Coming back now. That's Ford Galaxy. There we are. Calinut says, back to fuel prices shortage. Do you see in near future cities car free? Should be anyway. Do you see at least in Europe cities with main traffic on electric bikes, Copenhagen style? Yes. I'll tell you why. So we continue to build our towns and cities around a car. And that's the worst mistake you can possibly make. It's same here in Portlaoise. They put in 150 meters of a cycle lane, and then they go, nah, that's the end there. Back to cars. You may just go on. It's crazy what we do. We just keep building towns around vehicles, around cars. We should be building towns around cyclists, pedestrians, scooters, whatever, right? Any of those things. We should not be building any more stuff around cars getting out. So really, first off, you should instantly start thinking about getting rid of the cars out of all city centres. All of them. If it's called a city, it shouldn't have anything in it. Simple as that. I swear, when you go to Stockholm, you go to Oslo, you go to places like that, you realise that it's very efficient ways of moving without needing a car the whole time. Now, in fairness, Oslo was a big eye-opener because in Oslo, it was so quiet in the city centre. You stand at traffic lights with a couple of hundred cars either side of traffic lights and there's absolutely no sound. Nothing. You can hear the birds flying around the place. So it was a bit of a change from there. But in Ireland here, certainly Dublin, you got to get rid of that stuff. The whole, can you imagine the size of the bridge, O'Connell Bridge, being built again? There's no way they're going to do it again. So for cars, it should just be gone out of it completely. Car-free cities would be the ideal. London tried it. Paris has tried it. They still haven't got there, but they're on the way. How about what in the the Hyundai Tucson plug-in? Again, Alan, plug-ins are not something that I try to promote for people. I don't think plug-ins are very efficient. Unless you're willing to plug it in every single day, all the time, then it's efficient. But if you're able to do that, you should just buy an electric car. Just be done with it. Get over the whole plug-in hybrid thing. People in Ireland seem to believe that you need some sort of backup system the whole time. And I actually don't think you really do in this country. I got around most times. Now, the infrastructure is bad in places, patchy in places. But you'll always find a charge. At the same time, I know I got stuck the other night. I was wishing I had a PHEV. Just willing it into existence because I could not get a charge where I was. And I ended up having to limp on to another charge point. But you can get there eventually. But Hyundai Tucson, good car, but you will lose it in the car park, Alan. At the moment, there's so many of them out there. It is the number one selling car for the last 2 years in Ireland, at least, if not longer. And at the same time, that means when you pull into a Tesco's or a Dunn's or an Aldi or a Lidl or whatever, get your little shopping, you're inevitably going to park beside another Tucson. Because they're all over the place. There's plenty of other stuff out there you could buy along the same lines. David Cummins says, hi Bob, on the Irish EV forum on Facebook. Thank God I don't use Facebook much anymore. There was a post about a taxi man who has a 182 Leaf with circa 160,000 kilometres. Apparently the battery is finito. 14 grand to replace the battery. Worrying you through. Yes, there are many reasons behind that. Now, let's look at that 160,000 kilometres, which is a very, very long range car. That if you took that into a petrol or diesel car, you are definitely going to have problems at 160,000 kilometres. Now, whether you have to replace the whole bleeding battery or a whole engine in it, I don't know. But you certainly would have that. It has fallen outside its warranty. It is a very high mileage car. So there's more to that story than just looking at an EV and going, well, look, EVs are just trouble. They just get rid of all their electricity. But it is totally possible. There is all kinds of reasons why that would happen. Again, that's also older technology. When we get to solid state, these things won't happen so often. But even the modern stuff right now isn't really happening to that now. But it is very worrying when you see these stories pop out and you think, my God, that could be my car. But are you going to drive your car for 160,000 kilometers? It'll be the third or fourth owner that'll have problems with your car. Taxi drivers tend to drive a lot more. But it is very worrying to think that we still are in a situation where batteries can be destroyed completely and there's nothing you can do about getting a new one, and it costs essentially half the price of the car to buy it again. I'm thinking about ID3 next year. Should last many years. It shouldn't have any problems. ID3 is pretty good. ID4 is very good. It's a bit big, mind you. You might not like something that size. ID5 is a coupe version of ID4, and they're lovely cars to drive. Volkswagen is making big strides with the ID range. I kind of like what they're doing. But I see your name is Corsa Electric driver. Corsa Electric is very good. One of my favourite little electric cars that there is. It's a tad small and a little bit small on range as well, but it pretty much is one of my favourite little cars. There's Ocean Froggy. Good to have you back. Good. How's it going, Bob? My first time watching Sunday service for a while, stuck at home with COVID. My second Sunday service we've done. We only started again back last week. So you're only one behind. You're all right. Would be mad. Dora Rob said it would be mad to buy a 2022 C-Class 220 estate looking at one in the UK, VAT qualifying, etc. No, you wouldn't. diesel fuel is not going anywhere. They'll just stop making diesel engines and petrol engines. Well, the target is 2030. I'm not sure we're going to make that target because we can't just make enough electric cars. That's the biggest problem we have right now is you can't make enough electric cars to get them going. And so they're kind of balancing it out with a little bit of PHV, a little bit of hybrid, a little bit of diesel, a little bit of, there's all kinds of stuff. So it's all happening. I just seen it. Of course it's going to be banned. But anyway, we'll try. So the idea of buying a diesel now is fine. If your mileage suggests that you can use a diesel all the time, you'll have no problem with diesel. It'll be fine. Very high mileage people should still probably stick in the diesel part because the infrastructure in Ireland is just not compatible with very high mileage driver unless you're really determined to use it all the time. So if you're just moving from a diesel to a diesel, it's easy. Moving from diesel to electric is a little bit more difficult. Paul S says, hi Bob, most car manufacturers that make hybrids are CVT, eCVT or CVT, yeah. Others are dual clutch, which is better. Neither, they're both very different things. The CVT gearboxes were invented by Formula One, actually was involved, I think in Williams had it. Someone in Williams had it, but it was worth 2 seconds a lap at one point, so they banned it. But CVT was actually there. Constant variable transmission is like a set of elastic bands doing their job. So in actual fact, when you floor it, it's like a different gearbox when you don't floor it and so on. Very interesting thing to use. It makes the car sound weird because there's no gear change. So when you press the accelerator down, the car just goes and it just stays there as it gets faster. Dual clutch is a slightly different thing. There's still a proper mechanical clutch in there, but it's actually got two clutches, so it's selecting the gears either side of the gear you're in now. So if you're in third, you can go to third, you can go to second, you can go to fourth, you can go to sixth. It's able to skip through them. That's when it has two clutches. Neither one are better. CVT is more reliable than dual clutch. CVT very rarely breaks, if ever. Dual clutch can break, of course, because it's still a sort of mechanical thing inside it. And so there is a little bit of both. Dual clutch is better to drive. Sounds better, sounds more like a normal car when it's revving. Wayne Follett, my workplace installs 7 kilowatt chargers on free vent. Well, look at you. Now EVs are more tempting for me, maybe a Zoe, a daily driver. You'll find, depending on your job and your workplace, that's going to get expensive for your employer very quickly. So if you have 4 cars charging at 7 kilowatts per day and they're coming in essentially empty or half full, that could be a tenner a day for each one of those cars. Commercial electricity is definitely very expensive at the moment. Really, there's a man I was talking to the other day. His bill was normally about 900 quid a month. That's commercial electricity. It's now 2.5 grand a month right now. So it's gone up massively. And so some places would be able to deal with that. Hopefully, if your employer has solar panels, maybe charging that, I'm not sure. But it's brilliant to see more employers do it. Hotels still don't want to do it. They still have no interest in doing that because it's just so complicated for hotels. It's very difficult for them to put it in. It costs a lot of money. And then support systems. You know, when something goes wrong, their clients or their guests to stand outside going, what's wrong with this thing? Fix it. And of course, these people just run a hotel. They're not mechanical engineers or anything. Kieran McLaughlin is here as well. How are you, Kieran? 4D Modelling says, I'm a mechanical engineer and definitely believe an EV is not the solution, simply because mining lithium to scale is going to be a disaster, and that cobalt is scarce, high polluting, hard to recycle. Yes and no. So there's a caveat to that. Cobalt is used in the petrochemical industry far more than it's used in batteries. So they use cobalt to make diesel and petrol. It's used in the treatment of raw oils. It's been used there for years and years. Just happens to be used in battery production as well. Lithium now, that's a different story. Lithium mining is going on anyway for batteries because that laptop is running on a lithium battery. This phone right now is being charged as a lithium battery, but it's actually being charged by another lithium battery. So there's a lot of lithium going on that isn't necessarily going into cars. So it's you're in a difficult position to say that it's just going to be a disaster on that end of it. So it's when you get to scale, when you get up to large scale production, it's a different story, different thing entirely. There's there's bad parts. It's very hard to say where exactly we are right now and whether that will keep on going. Like when it comes to recycling stuff, we haven't got to scale yet. We literally aren't up at full scale EV, so we've no idea what's going to happen next. The thing that puts me off EVs is the length of time it takes to charge them. You can get from 10 to 80% in 5 minutes or less, and petrol, diesel, I think it'll be right there. Well, I very rarely have gotten an electric car down to 10%. The lowest I ever got on a regular drive, I think, was about down to 20%. I've only ever really got down to maybe 20, 25, 30% left in the battery before I charge it up again. Just depends on the drive you're on. Now, David Fulton, I would suggest if you were driving to the west, if you're going off out there to the bad parts of Castlebar or something, you might start thinking, my God, what happens if we run out of electricity? I'm going to have to drive to the next bleeding town to get a charge. I've done it up in Donegal. It was the same. The nearest fast charge point is Letterkenny. A 40-minute drive from my destination was the nearest fast charge point. So it's very hard to say there's a solution for everything. But I do think you can get from about 10 to 80% in about 20 minutes, 20, 25 minutes on most of the fast chargers in Ireland. They say fast. I don't count 50 kilowatt chargers as fast anymore. I think 100 is fast. And we've very few of them. I think 50 is fairly standard. And I think 22 is kind of weird because it depends on your onboard charger, how fast it's going to charge it. John says, is the Garda as lazy with Irish plates as they are with English plates? I was doing over 100 down the M50 at 4 a.m, found the emergency. The guard stepped into the road to tell me how to slow down and let me go. Well, that's, I don't know, John. That's your experience. I have no idea. Somebody just did a downvote. Who does downvoting these days? And you can if you want to. Work away. There's always one. If you're on an English plate down here, it's quite difficult to prosecute you. That's probably the biggest problem at the moment. Hi Bob, what's the best value money EV at the moment? None of them are particularly good value. The Zoe is not a bad joke. I kind of like the Zoe. I've always had a kind of soft spot, but the biggest problem I have with the Zoe is when you charge it, it's really noisy. It squeals, and I don't know what that is, but it's really scarily noisy. I like Kia EV6. I won't say it's necessarily good value, but the Earth one is pretty good value. That's okay. It's about 38 or 39 grand, I think it is, for that one. And you get plenty of stuff in it. What else is there in the good value department? See, you can't get most of them. I was going to say the Skoda Enyaq, but there's none to be gotten at the moment. Don't know where you'd put them even. Ocean Foggy points out 98% of charging is done at home. Didn't notice the wait while asleep. I'm the same, pretty much. I plugged in that pulsar last night and went to bed, and got up this morning, it was at 100%. It's no big effort to kind of plug it in and do it. If you're going to charge at home, it's fine. If you're not going to charge at home, you're going to charge on the street the whole time, you will be thinking about charging all the time. There's the problem. Listen, thanks to 186 of you who joined in today. You're very good. Please click the like button, click the share button, click the subscribe button. All them little buttons that are at the bottom of the screen right now. Click them things. But you can also, please, support the channel if you want to as well. I just spent €200 this morning buying the software that runs the live stream because I'm intending on live streaming other stuff as well and recording podcasts and things with other people. So my first podcast I'm going to record is actually next week, next Tuesday. I'll have a brand new podcast coming out called Humans. It will be out later on in the year a little bit. We're going to record 4 or 5 episodes of it. And the first guest on is Lindsay Bennett. You may not know who Lindsay Bennett is, but you'll get to know her very soon. She's actually quite famous, but you'll see her on my podcast. It's not about cars, it's about humans, about being humans, and there's going to be good guests. We've lined up a good few guests on it. But Ocean Foggy still points out you can use the car and go to the toilet. Now, I also find that it's very expensive. Every time you charge up, you wander off and you buy a coffee, which is like £3 now. I've seen £3.50 coffees in petrol stations. No, stop buying coffees in petrol stations. Stop buying them. Don't buy them anymore. I'm telling you. Ban yourself from buying coffees in petrol stations. You're making it. They're charging through the nose. Everybody imports coffee. And I was in Stockholm the other day, walked into a petrol station, see the price of the thing. And you know how much the coffee was in Stockholm? The coffee was €1.50. You're being ripped off. One of the most expensive countries in the world, Sweden, and the coffee was cheaper. Half the price of Ireland. You're being ripped off. Dilbert says, how are you, Bob? Have you found the whole TikTok thing has died off a bit? Not really. No. Pretty much. I put up 2 or 3 TikToks in the last couple of weeks and most of them gotten over 100,000 views. I don't really expect, you can't. So what happened TikTok was at the beginning, everybody got a bit of a boost. TikTok just promoted everybody. Some people were pretty good at getting that going. I was one of them. I just went with it. Didn't even think about it. But then TikTok monetization and systems came in and all these kind of different things and all these rules and regulations. And now it's kind of, I wouldn't like to be starting a brand new TikTok channel right now. It's very hard to get followers on TikTok. But if you want to say something to the world, there's still really no other platform than YouTube or TikTok as videos go. Instagram And I have 18,000 something followers on Instagram, and it's still, or subscribers, whatever it is, and it's still pretty hard to get them going. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink has just donated some money by Super Chat, which is very kind of you. Thank you very much for donating by Super Chat. It's always nice to get a little bonus. There's a point now. See, that's what I'm talking about. A little bit of money into the kitty. But you can also do PayPal and Patreon if you want as well. If you want to do a small bit of money every week or every month or something, Patreon is the way to go. If you just want to give a tip so I can buy a beer or I can pay for the bleeding software that I bought this morning, you can also do it by PayPal. Links down below if you want to do that. But subscribing is the best way. It's free as well, by the way. Subscribing is free. It's free for you. It's free for me. But it seems nice. YouTube seems to like it. Paul McBride says, thanks, Brother Bob. No problem at all. Enjoying the chat with your insights class. First time here. We'll be back. No problem at all, Paul. Make sure you subscribe. Turn on the bell because I don't always mention when I'm going to go live. But it's always, as much as I can, 2 o'clock on a Sunday for a couple of hours. We just chat and talk and mess around, do stuff we do with cars. Kieran McLaughlin says, Bob, Golf GTI Club Sport, gorgeous, was recently recalled to have the engine cover removed due to overheating issue and a fire risk. Oh my God. Is the new cover being produced? Could no cover affect the bonnet pitwork? Yes, it could, unfortunately, Kieran. The heat transfer, so the amount of heat that comes out of a petrol engine when you're driving transfers only one direction, up, straight onto the bonnet. I wouldn't imagine you'd get too much of a problem with the bonnet warping or paintwork coming off, because that'll be under warranty. The paintwork will be under warranty as well. Paintwork warranty is 8 years, 10 years or something. So I would imagine it wouldn't be a big deal that you could take it off, but get your recall done. The dealership will have to work something out for you. It has to be worked out for you. Go on, one more like. We have 100 likes. It'd be really good to have 100 likes. It'd be nice because 182 of you here like the stream. I know you have to log in to like, so people don't always like to do that. Great advice about PHEV inconvenience. Well, it's true. PHEVs are brilliant in certain circumstances, but there's loads of circumstances where PHEVs just don't work, especially when you've gone beyond your little 40-kilometer range and the thing is nothing more than a petrol engine and you're dragging around a 70 kg battery in the boot that's empty. There's nothing in it. It's not doing anything for you anymore. So I would just get rid of that and either go to a ordinary diesel, ordinary petrol, or just stick with electric and be done with it. Much easier. The Tucson 2022 mild hybrid. Oh my God. Yeah. Mild hybrids are another bad story. I have a problem with mild hybrids. I have yet to find a mild hybrid that does anything to help the engine. Most mild hybrids run the air conditioning or the lights or something around the car, but they don't actually do anything to help you drive the car. Some of the Hyundai ones and Kia ones help you up to like 18 kilometers an hour, and then it's done. So some of them are pretty good. If it's a diesel, it'll be good at motorbike driving. Diesels do better because diesels don't have spark plugs. They have compression, and the compression is better for long range driving because there's uncontrolled explosions essentially inside a petrol engine. It's very hard to control the explosion from a spark plug. But in compression systems, it's much easier to control where the explosion goes. Just so you know, that's why they're efficient on motorbikes. But yeah, the Tucson is not a bad car, but unfortunately, just a lot of them. From your experience, because you travel a lot, I do, can you rely on rental cars? No, never. I want to get rid of my 2 cars, even one Tesla, and go only bikes. You can rely that there will be a car there. So when you book a rental car, there will be a car, but you can't rely on what that car is going to be. Like there's times where I've gone and rented a car, and I booked a Corsa and got a Corsa. Other times I booked a Corsa and got a Mondeo. You just get a bigger car is what they got left. So it's kind of weird how they work it out. You don't usually go down in size, so you don't usually end up with a smaller car than you booked, but you can sometimes end up with a bigger car. But they're reliable enough. If you can book one, they're very expensive to book at the moment. And I'm talking about like £1,000 a week. You can, if you can get one, they'll be good. Sean Hopkins says 100 kilometers or less, you can get 4.3 litres to 4.5 litres per 100 kilometers in a mild hybrid diesel, which is probably possible, yeah. David Cuddy has joined the chat and says, howdy Bob, long time listener, 40th time commenting. Do whales suck each other's tits as a form of foreplay? We did a podcast which will be out very soon. I was listening to it today. It'll be out very soon, and we discussed that exact topic in that podcast. Check out David Cuddy on Instagram. He's on Snapchat as well. He's here on YouTube too, but check him out because that podcast will be out and announced very soon. And Louise Cody's dropped in too, so well, hello there. She says that even in text, it sounds a little bit sexy. Just saying. Ocean Froggy says, Bob, I simulated falling asleep in GTX on empty stretch of waterway and was amazed how Travel Assist kept the steering pulled in and stopped, tugged the seatbelt, wagging the steering wheel, hazards on. Wow. Does everything pretty much. And that's going to be standard feature very soon. Up until now, up until the latest generations of them, what used to happen is if you fell asleep, the car would just stop in the middle of the motorway. It would still stop, but it would stop in a straight line. It wouldn't pull you into the side or do any sort of stuff. But the more modern stuff now is able to actually pull you in over the hard shoulder and get you all clean. Here's the coffee in from the missus. Thanks, missus. I'm finished with that one. My tea is finished. Thanks. There's the wife now. Has brought in a good cup of coffee for the second hour. We're in the 7-inning stretch now. It's always nice to be into that point. But yes, the modern stuff. So since the beginning of June, July this year, all cars have to have an annoyance factor when you go over the speed limit. But a lot of them now have essentially automated driving. It's not perfect. It's pretty good. Some of them are still a bit rubbish. Some of them, like the Polestar one, just wanders off. Just like you stop steering, I'm just going to stop, and off it goes across the white line. Volkswagen's one does a little bit more than that. Stops you wandering around the place and will pull you over for safety reasons. It can be frustrating. It does a lot of annoying sounds. Antion, I can't even pronounce your name. There's a name in there somewhere, I'm sure. We're from Portugal anyway. Hi Bob, greetings from Portugal. Following your work for several years, good. First time live in a Sunday service. You are one of my favourites. Thanks for this public service. No problem at all. We always come here in the Sunday service, try and talk about cars. Not just cars, mind you. We talk about all kinds of stuff. God, there were some years here where it was just like 4 of us in the chat, and we chat away about all kinds of weird stuff, whatever came into mind. And that was usually what happened. Escal says, would high mileage on a diesel be big 7-seater worry you? Hard to find a big bus and low mileage. Not really. It's all about the service history. So diesels are only as good as the people who've been servicing them along the way. That is the biggest problem we have. So many people don't service their car regularly. They just service it when a light comes on the dashboard, and even then they let the light wander on for years. And then they service it when one day they walk out and turn the key and go, I don't know what happened, just won't start. That's when those cars get serviced. So be very careful at that. Look at your service history. If there isn't a service history, I would tend to walk away at this point. We've known about service history since forever, right? So service history thing has been a forever job, and yet we don't seem to do it very often. So if there wasn't a service history, I'd still go, not too sure about buying that car. So I stay away from it. But I wouldn't be worried about high mileage so much if it had a good service history. Earth model Kia or ID3, I would probably get whatever. They're much of a muchness. ID3 would be slightly more practical as a daily car. There's some things that Kia don't do very well, like the boot liner is so slidey and slippy. Things just slip around in the boot the whole time. So as a kind of a daily runabout, I'd probably have an ID3, but I do love the Kia software. The Kia software is absolutely amazing. Very happy with that. Much better than ID3's software, but software is only a tiny bit of whether you like the car or not. Rory Toner says the audio is fantastic. That is a Rodecaster Pro 2 that is sitting here beside me, running through this mic, which is a Rode Pod mic thing that is connected up to my laptop over here, which runs it out to Ecamm Live, which runs it out to YouTube. Sounds very complicated, and I'm like, I like the Matrix. I've worked out how to make this happen, but it's actually very good. It's a really good system. I can record the audio directly into the machine, or I can record the audio onto my machine over here. Ecamm Live also records the audio too and video, and it's absolutely awesome system that I've worked out, but it took me years to work out this kind of routine that I have, and it's also portable. So I am going to be starting a business this year where you can hire me to make your podcast, not to present it. I'll come to your business and we'll sit down and make a podcast with you. I'll show you how to do it. So the audio is actually pretty good. Kieran Mulvey says, hello, how are you getting on? There's Nudge Nudge Super Chat. Thank you very much for the Super Chat. Very kind of you. I love Super Chats. We love PayPal and Patreon as well. If you want to do that too, you can. Links down below. I missed one there. Sorry, Calvin Harangus. Thank you very much, Calvin Harangus, for the donation. It's very kind of you. By PayPal. You're very good. Owen McDonough as well. Thank you very much. You're very kind. There's so many people. Garrett Talbot as well. I already mentioned you, I think. Jim Shed as well. You're just very generous. Thank you very much, people. Hopefully the Zcam Live thing will keep working. I'll upgrade it if I need to, but it seems to be pretty good. I like the visuals of it. It seems to sort of desaturate and make it very high quality. It's nice. Graham Cullen says Stockholm is a good city. Coffee 150, beer 10.50. I know the beers are crazy money. That, I mean, never been so sober on a holiday. That was the one thing. Eating out wasn't terribly expensive. I thought it was pretty much of a muchness with Ireland when we came to the actual bills of eating in restaurants and even Supermacs and Burger Kings, right? You don't see many of them there. Not Supermacs, sorry. Burger King and McDonald's. You don't see too many of them there, but they seem around about the same price. But coffee was 150. But beer, now going for a pint, nah, lads, you need a mortgage for that one. Because they had a massive drink driving problem in the Nordic countries. So I would get rid of that. The price of that can do what you want. Drink is drink. You can do whatever you want with drink. Drink is very bad for you. Don't do it. But when it goes on holiday, you want to have a little pint somewhere because we're Irish, right? And then you suddenly realize it's like a tenner for a pint. But it's, only 150. And that's where I have a problem with stop buying coffees in petrol stations. Stop it. You will save a fortune by getting a flask and making your own coffee at home. I swear to God, we use Aldi. Is it Lidl? No, Lidl, I think. Bags of powdered, it's not powdered coffee, it's ground coffee. We buy them. They're like, how much are they? 150 or something. They're really cheap. And they make great coffee. That's the coffee I'm drinking here. They make great coffee. It's too expensive in petrol stations now to even go anywhere. Paul S says, hi Bob, a friend of mine bought a Renault Clio E-Tech hybrid. Good car, that. This is the worst hybrid he ever bought. Should have went with Toyota. Well, it's a matter of opinion, but I wouldn't have much of a problem with what Renault does on the hybrids. But I don't particularly like hybrids or plug-in hybrids. It wouldn't be my first port of call. When someone asks me what they should buy, I'll generally recommend either a straight petrol, straight diesel, or an electric. And then if they're really if they're scared of the whole idea of going electric, then you go, well, you could do a plug-in hybrid to get you used to the whole thing. You're used to plugging it in after a while, then you're used to going here and going there on electricity. And it's competitive nearly. You plug it in and then you see how far you can go on just electric. You're turning off air conditioning in normal minutes. It's only 40 kilometers. Now, the bigger ones, like some of the BMW diesels can do 70 kilometers. Not real world. It's what they say. But I would certainly, at the moment, be looking all electric right now if I was changing my car. Or a Golf GTI Close Sport, which is just a straight up petrol. Just done. So if you're going to go, you might as well go that stuff. Jason O says, Bob, I can't seem to get car insurance for my Golf Mark 5 GTI. Insurance companies keep saying too old, but I have an NCT. Thank you very much, Dara Coonahan. You're very kind. Hi, Bob. I heard he just donated, so he skips the queue for the questions. I just heard the UK charger cables are being stolen from copper wire. Have you heard the same here? Yes, charger cables are certainly being stolen because they're expensive. It's not just necessarily copper wire. People are just stealing them because they're universal. It's like stealing a USB cable. It's a universal cable. So they're stealing them to sell them, but also because they're full of copper, full of wire. There's not that much copper in them, but there's enough in them, I suppose, people think to steal them. I wouldn't be chopping a cable in half from a car while it's being charged. There's a fair current passing through those cables, so I would stay away from that. But it is happening, yeah, for sure. Remember, once your car is locked and the cable's in, it's locked into the car. The car doesn't naturally unlock the cable at any point. The charger might release it, but the car won't. So you can have charger release. If somebody hits the emergency stop, it might release your cable. Anyway, sorry. Hi, Bob. I can't seem to get your car insurance for my Golf Mark 5 GTI. Insurance company says, it's a Mark 5. Okay, so Jason, the problem is insurance companies in this country they don't have to give you a quote unless you get 5 rejections. Okay, so there is a system that you can complain against not being able to get insurance for any of your cars and any of your quotes. The problem is you're going to get a quote, but you won't like the quote. It's going to be very, very high that they will quote you. Now, you must have just bought that Mark 5 GTI because that would be the same version as my Seat Leon. I have no problem with insurance. In actual fact, my insurance went down this year with the AA. I saved a fortune with them by staying with them this year, which is very unusual for me to stay with an insurance company, but they were much cheaper than everybody else. So I've got my quotes and got the things, so it's totally possible. But the GTI thing is putting them off. Order something in your car or your history that they don't like. But NCT has no bearing whatsoever on getting insurance, just so you know, because insurance companies just do whatever they want to do here. That's simple as that. Is a Rav4 Hybrid a good car? Yes, it is. Nice little car to drive. It's very good. It is just a straight hybrid. Good few of them around. That's been selling pretty well. People are buying these small SUVs for no reason. Do you know our Rav4 is about the same size as a Corolla inside? If you look at the actual cubic capacity of where you sit and the boot space, a Corolla is about the same size, weirdly. Carjacker, which is a good one to have on board. Any Audi recommendations for under 40k? Got a Golf 8 Club Sport. Looking for a shot as a poor quality car. My God, it's a poor quality car. I'll take your Golf 8 Club Sport if you don't like it. Audi under 40k doesn't really exist. You're going to be stuck in Audi A3 territory, possibly straying into Audi A4 territory, but it's not going to be a great big good one. So just to be aware that that's going to be a kind of an expensive trip. But Golf 8 Club Sport, trade that in on an Audi, you're going to get some money out of it for sure. There's loads of good cars within the Audi range for sure. They just can't get them. Graham Cullen says, rental cars, family holiday to USA, dad booked a saloon. They only had a Pontiac Firebird. 20 years and mom still doesn't believe that about the car booking. The company did give a discount on the Firebird. Oh my God. Well, I'd be smiling if I turned up and got a Pontiac Firebird instead of just an ordinary old Mondeo saloon. Firebirds are cool. Petrol and diesel in America is very expensive. Actually, everything in America has gone very expensive right now. Really expensive. Like $8 to $10 for a coffee in New York. Like it's just gone a little bit wild there. A friend of mine came back from Los Angeles recently and said it's just, people just don't go out anywhere now. They don't go. They go to the local place and they buy up all their coffee and make it all at home. They don't go out and buy any coffees anymore. It's just gone. And it should become the same here. I think you're all insane to be buying coffees in petrol stations. Just saying. What would be a good hot hatch diesel? There's no such thing as a hot hatch diesel. There's no such thing. You may get that out of your mind. A hot hatch is petrol only. That's it. You can have a hot hatch electric. It was very unlikely. We haven't seen one of them just yet. But there is no hot hatch diesel. So like a GTD is not a hot hatch diesel. It is a high-powered diesel stuck into a Golf. That's really it. Callum Weir says, what do you think of the new Peugeot 308? It's actually pretty nice. I've ordered a 180 Hybrid GT Premium in an Olivine green. That's the one that Dave O'Queeve has this week. I was sitting in it. Exactly that colour as well. Seems a lot better value than the new Golf. The only problem I still have with Peugeot is the size of the steering wheel. I've gotten used to it, but it's still a bloody compromise. I still find myself driving on motorways and twitching at the steering wheel the whole time. Just twitching. It's always a constant sort of a twitch to it. Just kind of annoying, really. But it's a good car, really nice car. I've driven it a couple of times now, and it's been a really nice car to drive. I really like them. The Astra is also a good car, by the way, which is the same basis. Rian says, are you a Formula 1 fan? What do you think you follow most? I'm not really a fan. I wouldn't spend a lot of time seeking out Formula 1, but I have been keeping up to it. And the main thing that's keeping me up with it is that Netflix series. No joke. The thing on Netflix, which is the Drive to Survive, that is excellent television. That's as good as it gets. I binged every series of that thing, and I was never really a Formula 1 fan, so it's kind of weird. Is Ecamm like streaming via YouTube Live, Facebook? Yeah, it is kind of. It's a program that, so essentially Ecamm Live runs the broadcast in the background, so I can set up the different screens to do different things. It puts the text on the screen for me here, which is this little stream thing going across the bottom. It does all that and takes in I can see my audio, I can see sound effects. I can see anything I want to do because my audio can do sound effects. I won't play it now because it'll blow your head off. I can do all kinds of stuff on the screen, so it's much easier to run. I used to use OBS software. That's open broadcast software. That's free. It doesn't cost that, but you need a degree in computer science to make the thing do what you want it to do. Whereas Ecamm Live, straight out of the box, it just works. You can stream to all platforms, essentially, apart from TikTok. And it records the entire thing you're doing onto your hard drive straight away after it's available. Brilliant. We give Dara another go. So Dara paid a $5 to be up front here. So super chat, €5 from Dara. The charger cable thing is becoming a problem. Anything that's not locked down is becoming a problem. So Prius had a massive problem with their cat being stolen from underneath. You know, the car just been chopped off and they walk out with it. So that's happening. If it's not nailed down, people are stealing stuff at the moment. That's what's really going on right now. So you have to be really careful what's out there. You should be okay. if people can get at your cables in the boot of the car or whatever, they might steal them. You know, if it's not nailed down, it's worth money. Simple as that. Bob, great to have you back. Thanks, Paul Carey. Thinking of changing for either the Kia EV6, Hyundai Ioniq 5. What are your thoughts? They're the same car, underneath at least. I don't think the Hyundai Ioniq is going to age very well in its design. I think it's a bit odd looking. I think in certain colours, particularly that white one, it looks like a fridge. And I know that sounds really mean, but I think it really does. I said that about Audi. I've said that about many brands, but I think it looks a little bit fridge-like. And so much so that Hyundai have gone from Kia, a Hyundai Ioniq 4 looks nothing like 5. And I hated Ioniq 4, the last version of it. And Hyundai Ioniq 6 looks nothing like 5. So they don't even like the design. You follow what I mean? If they liked the design, they would have continued it. They would have continued using it into the next version of it, whatever. It's all gone. Just dumped the whole lot out and done, and started with a whole fresh new look. So even Hyundai are having problems with the look of the car. Bob, do you think that Apple Green and Circle K will end up providing charging network future, at least on motorways? They shouldn't, Ocean Froggy, really. We should be providing our own network. So realistically, what we're asking petrol stations to do is pay to charge the odd car passing by. That's essentially, if you think of what we're doing now, I know we're transferring over to a lot of new systems and all. We should be building our own stations to charge cars. Why do I say that? I know that sounds kind of weird, but the problem is we've done it even here in Portlaoise Plaza, where they put in two different chargers standing beside each other, but both of them charge at 50 kilowatt. One of them is supposed to be, and it's listed on the app as 150 kilowatts, but it's still only charged at 50. I was told once by the chairman of the Irish EV Owners Association that was a temporary reduction in power. I'm telling you, 8 years ago, when that place was being built, it went in at 50. It's still 50. Nothing changed. They have to upgrade all kinds of things. So there's nothing temporary about an 8-year problem. So we can't rely on what's happening out there in the charging network, because ESB have a vested interest in it. They sell electricity to it. So they have a vested interest in what's going on. We need more private companies to come in and build a network for us. That's what we really need, is private companies who will withdraw money from it. We're not doing that. We're only encouraging our own semi-state body to do it, and they are useless at it at the moment. They don't seem to be getting the right funding. When they do it, they don't seem to be able to get it in. Planning permission bogs it all down again. We can't fund petrol stations to do it again. They're paying $3,000 a space in petrol stations for those ESB yokes. $3,000 a year, I think, or $3,000 a month or something. They're paying a huge amount of money just for those petrol stations to have an EV place. And they stick them out the back, off down the back of the car park somewhere where it's dark and miserable, no roof. If you want to feel like a second-class citizen, what you do is go and charge up your electric car in a petrol station. Then you realise that the guys out the front pull up under a roof. They have a thing for wiping their hands. They have petrol to put it into petrol thing, put it up, and they walk off inside and they get to pay the thing and they buy their little coffees, which you shouldn't do. And they buy something else, and then they come back out and they get in their car and they drive off. It's all over in 5 minutes. But if you're an EV driver, you're out the back, you're in the rain, miserable, it's cold, there's a waiting list, people are standing around the place looking at you. You plug in, 10 seconds you're plugged in, someone goes, how long are you going to be? We're doing it all backwards, lads. We're doing it all backwards. Anto, I'm going to go with Anto. That's the first 4 letters of your name. What are your feelings about the future of EVs? Brands make prices too high for the common. Brands aren't making those prices. They get the most profit of each model. Are you sure the industry will survive in a business model like this? No, the industry is not going to survive. If you're in car sales at the moment, your days are numbered, right? If that's all you're going to do, everything has been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking every single year. Less and less people are required to get the industry out. What the real future of the industry is going to be is that the car companies want to sell you the car. They don't want to sell it to a dealership or distribution group or any of that sort of stuff. They want to sell it directly to the end user, and that's exactly what they're after. They've announced this multiple times. Volkswagen's been announced for the last 3 years. They want to take in your customer into their network so they can sell them stuff. And that's what Tesla got a head start doing. Now, Tesla are finding their own problems. I think Elon Musk is a liar. He's just making stuff up to hit the headlines and then never does any of it, right? He just constantly does that to grab a headline out of the sky, gets more attention, his share price goes up, he makes some more money. That's how he's surviving. Most of his stuff has been built on grants and things coming from the US government. And as I said 2 years ago, and I was told at a time that I was absolute lunacy, I said that they were in bed with the military systems over in the US and have been since they started. I'm right. I've been right all along. Again, I keep getting proven right in these things. But when it comes to what the car industry is going to have to do to survive, it's going to be a very different landscape. But in the last 10 years, we're going to be definitely having problems in the future with how we distribute these cars, how we build these cars, where they're being built, who has control of the lithium and the cobalt and the ingredients, the precious metals and things. Who has control of all that is the one that's actually going to control whether you can buy your electric car or not. Dusan says, looking at getting the eSoul, would you go in for some other EV at a similar price range? I would probably, right now, I'd buy the Nero. eSoul and Nero are very close together in price. And eSoul is a petrol and diesel car that's been converted to be electric, whereas the new Nero has been built as an electric car from the ground up. So I would buy the Nero at the moment. I think it's a really nice car as well. Literally just came back from an international trip in that car. I think I had it here too. Did I have it here? I think I had it here. But what's better, Subaru Impreza or Mitsubishi Evo? Neither. To drive, the Evo. Subaru does the better noise. Evo is better to drive. Neither of them are particularly reliable, and both of them require a crap ton of servicing, especially the Evo, which seems to need to be serviced every month, essentially. But they'll let you down. They will break 100%. Either one of those cars will break because they're like thoroughbred horses, you know. Anyway, Rian says, I hope I pronounced that right, Rian. Looks like Rian. Seems like a Welsh name, maybe. Skoda Enyaq, good car. What version are you having? Are all available right now without supply constraints? Have a 330e at the moment and planning a change in 2023. I would just buy the fairly standard Enyaq. I wouldn't go wild on Enyaq now. It's probably one of the best looking cars that we have right now on the fleets. Kia EV6 looks like a spaceship. Enyaq just looks like an ordinary car, you know, an ordinary sort of SUV. I think it's a pretty good looking car. So I would just go with the standard Enyaq in the middle. I'd spend a little bit on the options and stuff. There's nothing really that you need much in an Enyaq other than what's there. The only reason Enyaq wasn't being built is because the factory that made the wiring looms was in the Ukraine. That's literally why. That's why they stopped. Other than that, they would have kept on making them. They had batteries, just no wiring looms. Best looking people car ever is BMW E30 Touring. Could be right there. Could be right, Jim. Just go with that. Make electric and make $1,000. Well, the problem is we have to kind of stop producing cars that are normally petrol and diesel and then make them electric because they're not very efficient. They really aren't. You have to raise seats inside to put batteries underneath them, and you find space for batteries where never were before. And you can't just put all the batteries up the front in the engine bay where there used to be an engine, because other stuff has to go in there, like the air conditioning system and cables and wires and braking system. All that all goes under the bonnet now. And also it would upset the weight of the car by a long way. So I'm waiting still for a good conversion system to convert a petrol or diesel car into an electric car. And I'm going to do that to Leon when it's possible, but it's just too expensive. It's crazy money to do that right now. And it's not worth my while. Bob's your uncle. Glad to have you back. What great way to start Sunday, good man. I'm in the US. Keep up the good work. Good to have the US aboard. We've had Melbourne. We've had Eastern Europe. We've had Ireland, of course. We've had England here, of course. Wales, Scotland's been here as well. And now the US has landed as well. It's good stuff, that. John Byrne, what's your favourite 2020, I suppose 220 diesel, 2020 diesel executive saloon, S90, just leave it at that. Just to look at, it's crispy good in the right colour. Beautiful car. XF, Jaguar XF, yeah, I'll be there too. A6 in an S-line, Avant is very nice looking. I'd be happy out in a E-class estate. Like, it's just a good car. Just an honest, it's not great looking. It's not brilliant to drive. It's just so big and nice and cozy to drive. But if I was to buy one, now I do find the S90, the Volvo S90 is very expensive on parts and very expensive on servicing in general. They're super expensive. Things like taillights and headlights, all these LED bits, they all have to be replaced in one go. That's it. Like, it's not like I'm replacing a bulb. The entire tail lamp comes out, gets thrown in the bin, and a new tail lamp goes in. It's very expensive if something goes wrong. So Mercedes maybe might be a bit cheaper than that, but that's the same for all LEDs. Mercedes tend to have a little bit cheaper servicing, by the way, than Volvo. funny enough. But I would have an S90 to look at. I would have an XF to look at, very good. A6 Avant to be very good. And an E-Class just to drive all the time. BMW E30 Touring, why even keep making other cars? How was that? After that was invented, just stop there. Just stop. E30 Touring is all you need. You're done. You nailed Bobby about EV charging. I nailed Bobby about it. I nailed it about EV charging. Well, yeah. EV charging is a pain in the hole, usually. But at home, it's not really. You just plug it in, leave it plugged in, and walk away and go off there and get your dinner. And, it's fine. I've gone a couple of days here and not charged the car. And tonight, I have to drive to Enniscorthy in that car. And I've charged up today to 100%. I'm going to drive it. I won't charge it down there. Just drive it back again. It'll be fine. I'll charge it a bit tonight because of a long drive. And I'll bring it back tomorrow. It goes back tomorrow. I drove to Rally School Ireland the other day and drove home again. I didn't necessarily have to charge. It's only when you get out into the public network that things go wrong. It really is. Charging at home isn't a big deal. Charging in the public network is where you go, do I have the right app? Do I have the right card? Do I have the things? The dream for me is to pull up to an electric charge point and it says it's going to cost you this much per kilowatt and you can pay with your Apple Pay phone thing. Done. What's wrong with that? That's what I want. Has a car in space? Enough said. Well, now, that was hardly difficult. He has just created space litter. That's all I'm saying. That's litter in space. That's all. He proved he could do it. He didn't even do it. He just supervised it. He said, make it happen. And it made it happen. Look, Elon Musk throws out, just says things, and then spends money and makes that happen. That's it. He's been working with the military over in the US since the very beginning, especially on SpaceX. The Tesla stuff has never made any money. He gets tons and tons of grants for that. He's always talking about creating, if you just put 100 kilometers of solar panels in Africa somewhere, we'd have enough electricity for the whole world. But he hasn't put one single solar farm together, nothing. He made a factory to make some batteries over in Germany, got that done, heard no more about it, all over. I'm just saying that Elon Musk, not saying nothing against Tesla or SpaceX or anything, just Elon Musk is I don't know what he is. I can't really work him out. He's just all over the place. He makes no sense most of the time. If you actually listen to what he says, it sounds brilliant, but he never does any of it. You should do a test for €15 worth of diesel and €15 worth of electricity from public charges, see which car goes further. It'll be 100%, it's going to be diesel. I'm telling you, without a shadow of a doubt, Michael, I know the fuel economy. I know at €15 worth of diesel, it'll be diesel because electricity is so weird. It could say 200 kilometers on the dashboard, and then 15 minutes later it says 100 kilometers. Electricity is kind of weird. It just depends on how you drive, but diesel just goes on. Doesn't care. It doesn't care less. So I would suggest that €15 worth of diesel would get you further. I would say a full tank of diesel in any car, I'm talking about 55 litres now, not 75 litres, would get you much further than any full tank in twice as far maybe. But that's not saying it's cheaper to do electric. Will the Irish government ever abolish VRT on VAT and EVs? No. Should they make so much money? Why would they? No. They're never going to do it. I'm warning you now. They're never. The only way VRT will ever be dealt with is when people realise they're paying it and stop paying it. If you stopped buying cars tomorrow, if all of you got together and went, no more cars, the VRT is gone, I guarantee you the SIMI would be up in arms to get rid of VRT instantly. They all would, but most of them won't touch it because it's a very quiet, stealthy little tax that just disappears into the coffers, and because dealers use it. So VRT is paid once a year to the government, not every month, not every car. It's once a year, and that's how it works out. So it sits there as part of the cash flow, but it's due. When it's due, they pay it. So it's part of their cash flow as they go along. You're wrong on Elon. I'm not, I'm not. You go through all the promises he's made over all the years and all the things he's done and all the things he says he's going to do and all that, and actually look as to how many things they've done. Nah. Nowhere near. Not even close. He'll eventually get there. Sorry, I'm just going to charge up a little light here. I bought these things called Ulanzi lights. If you're ever looking to buy a light, I'm not sponsored by the brand. They're absolutely phenomenal little tiny things. They fit in top of cameras. And you just recharge them whenever they run out of electricity, and that's it. They're back up, and it'll run on the battery. So I just plugged it in there now, and it's running. So it'll run on the battery, but I'm just going to charge up anyway. The other one's running. It's running fine. There's the other one. I use it as a secondary light here. It's running, and I have a big light out the back. just in case the sun starts to change. The problem with sun is it changes over time, and it becomes a weird thing to watch as it starts to go down. F1 cars are all powered by air, just like those helicopters. They fly into their events. Guess they will be battery powered soon to hide this fact. They want you know. There's a brilliant Twitter account that I've been looking at for the last while, and it's called, I think it's called Celebrity Private Planes or something. It's called, and the account, what it does is it tracks all the celebrities taking off and landing, and how many miles they do. Like Steven Spielberg flew for 18 minutes in Ireland from one airport to another in a private jet. So did Mark, what's he called? The guy in America. There's just this insanity that these are the people who will stand up on stage and go, we need to do our bit for the environment. We need to start recycle, reuse, reduce. We need to do all that. So they'll get in a private jet and they fly off. Like, how does that work? It's so stupid. And I know it's very difficult for them to walk through airports, to get onto a public flight. It's very difficult. And it doesn't necessarily land where they wanted to land either. But you know what? Tough shit. Like, that's it. We all have to do that. So you may just get over yourselves and start doing stuff. And it's the very same for any of these big celebrities that go on big international tours. The tour bus is gone, lads. They're landing in on private jets and taking private helicopters out of stuff. That's what's actually happening. But they're the same people who will stand up and tell you that you can't buy a petrol or diesel car because you're the problem. And I'm just kind of sick of being blamed. We're individually blamed for all the bad things that's happening in the environment instead of a group effort to say, well, I'm going to change. I'm not going to take any more private jets. I'm going to just go public flying all the time. Ocean Fargo says, Bob, but Apple Green and Circle K own all the sites. They will not protect their retail footfall by partnering with providing multi-billion stall charging hubs undercover. Yes and no. See, we control the electricity. So here's my point. What we're doing is giving the control over to a third party who can provide us with a premises. Now, there's charge points in Portlaoise. There's one particular one that's outside the tax office. It's only a 22 kilowatt charge. There's 2 points on it. But it's quite busy. And the reason it's busy is because there isn't a cafe there. There's nothing there. It's always got a charge point. There's always someone there charging at it. Always. Dead of night stuff. You see the cars parked outside the place. But there's no cafes near it. No need to have a cafe near it. People just sit in their cars or to go off for a walk because it's a 22 kilowatt charger. So my point is that we control the electricity, but we're giving away the control to the petrol stations, and we're letting them say, well, we're not putting a roof on it. We're going to put it down the back of the thing. We're going to do whatever we want. We're going to tell you we're giving you 150 kilowatt. We're only going to put in 50. And I've seen that countless times across Ireland. The last charge point, big one that I use is in Limerick, on the edge of Limerick City. 2 chargers there, a 50 and 150 standing beside it. Both do 50. You're charged for 150, but they both do 50. There's a Supermax next to it. There's an Apple Green, I think it's Apple Green. It could be Circle K, a petrol station there attached to it as well. But you're standing there looking at it going, why am I paying such a high price? And I'm in the cold, in the rain. There's a guy in a Tesla sitting next to me trying to charge up as well. He parked badly, so I couldn't really get at my side. It's just such a frustration. But we're not telling them it has to be done this way. We're just going, here's some chargers, put them in, and we'll pay you money to have them installed. And they make money on the money. We need to take control of this. We need better governance, not from ESB. They are a main player in this. ESB can dictate who can put a charger in wherever they want because they control the electricity going to that charger. So if you're a private organisation and you want to put in 2 or 3 150 kilowatt hour chargers up to town here in Portlaoise, ESB can go, I can't provide you enough electricity. Sorry, you can't do it. That's it. And you're out. There's nothing you can do about it. It's complete protectionist stuff. Just so you know. Is Ireland a tax haven for companies? Why is there no car production in Ireland? Only car components, as far as I know. There's a few car components are made here. Yeah, there's a good few. Mostly down the west coast. Volkswagen and Range Rover, and they get most of their stuff made here in Ireland. It is a sort of a tax. It used to be a tax haven. It's not so much anymore. We used to have a very low corporation tax in compared to Europe. But Minister Eamon Ryan has sold that one down to Swanee as well. So that's gone. Still low, but not as low as it used to be. We used to be the number one car production, a car builder, not production. We used to assemble cars here in Ireland for a good many years, right up there in the Nace Road. And we did in Ford, had a plant in Cork as well for building stuff. So we used to be good at it. But we changed the rules here, changed our tax system here and just disappeared off into Europe and homeland. It's much easier to build 50,000 cars in a plant in Wolfsburg, put them on a train and ship them off by train to the rest of Europe without ever needing a boat in the middle of it. If you build cars here in Ireland, you have to sail them out or fly them out if you really wanted to. Niall McHugh, hi Bob, what do you think of the Volvo V40 Sarah in 2016? They're expensive for parts and servicing like the S90. Yeah, they are. All Volvo parts are quite expensive. V40 wasn't a bad car. Wasn't great to drive. A bit front-wheel drive-ish feeling to the whole thing. So it wasn't fantastic to drive. The manual gearbox was not good. And it did give some trouble over a few bits and pieces in the car as well. So most of that would have been recalled by now or changed out by now. So I wouldn't really worry too much about the parts part. But they are expensive for parts if something goes wrong. Volvo always have been, to be honest with you. Volvo's never been cheap for parts. There's Rian, thank you very much. Hayden, the pronunciation is right. See? It's the Irish name for Ryan. Enyaq or fermenter. I would have an Enyaq. Just because if I'm going to move now, I know the fermenter looks good. But I don't know why I would not want a smart SUV like that. I just don't want a thing that looks like an SUV was supposed to be a sports car or something. It doesn't make any sense to me from Inter. It's a nice car. It's good to drive. It's all right. But I would have an Enyaq any day at the moment. You could also, but if you're looking at, see, Cupra won't do it anymore. Well, the smaller Cupra, there's a small SUV they made, which is a great car. But it was only petrol. It wasn't nothing to do with hybrids. So that's gone already. Jones S says, biggest laugh of all, Bob, these electricity cars use gas turbine and water turbines and air turbine generators that are once paid for use no fuel to make other than air, water and steam. Right, electricity made for free. Electricity is never made for free. There's no such thing as free electricity apart from solar panels. The only way to get it free. It costs nothing at all. But I kind of get what you're talking about. JTR says, I have an ID4 in order, got a great deal on it. Good man. Order times are slipping, so stay in touch with your dealership because order times are slipping on a lot of these cars as they're trying to wind themselves back up into full production. Still having problems with components coming into car companies, having problems with battery components more now than ever because most batteries parts are made in China. A lot of parts are made in China. A lot of stuff are bought straight in, pre-built from Chinese plants. China's now saber rattling over Taiwan, and there's all this other stuff that's going on in the background between the US, of course, is out there saber rattling as well, and so it's kind of, there's a lot going on in that part of the world. So just don't be surprised if something slips again, but we'll see. But Elon took a weak draw on a spliff with Joe Rogan, so many Elon is now a hero. That's unfortunately the problem. You have a guy who's dictating how car companies have caught up on Tesla. So let's be clear here. Car companies are now pretty much on a par with what Tesla was doing 4 or 5 years ago and still doing right now. Tesla didn't change. So Tesla got a head start on a number of things. One is selling electricity, superchargers. They got a massive head start on that, but superchargers are very expensive. They're more expensive than our on-street chargers right now. Okay? I think it's 55 cent, 53 cent a kilowatt or something on a supercharger. They're phenomenal. Brilliant yokes to use, but dear God, they're very expensive. The other parts of that, then you have Tesla have other problems as well. So build quality has been a problem for a long time. Getting batteries. So they used to build all their cars in the US, then they shipped them to Europe, to Rotterdam, and then they moved them over to the UK and Ireland. So the components that were huge. Now they have a battery plant in Germany, but it only makes batteries to assemble cars. We still have a problem with that. So there's a lot going on in Tesla, but the car companies, while they've, as I said, Tesla tell you everything that's going on, everything they're doing, car companies say nothing, and then the car comes out. So right now, most of the car companies in some or another have caught up with pretty much everyone around them. The fast chargers in the US are Walmart car parks. Every time I charge there, I go and spend $20 minimum on charge. I don't need to steal. So it's not the charging; it's going off to buy other stuff as well. Same thing happens when you're wandering in around the place. Like you go into any of the petrol stations here in Ireland and you immediately go, right, I'm going to be stuck here for 45 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is. I'll go to the toilet. Then you go to the toilet and you're looking around at fans and stuff. You can have things around the shop, maybe get a Supermax or something. You're always in around doing something. So you're going to get really fat is what's going to happen when you have enough electric cars. They dug the road up near me and they tested the main electricity supply pipe. They air tested as a massive air line to local hubs. Jones, you are I don't know whether I should ban you or just you're just a pain in the hole. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I have an XC40 Recharge, love it, even though its range is not great. It's inefficient. Yeah, well, I know they're good fun. If you like them, if you're into them, go for them. If you're not into them, then go electric. It's much easier to go fully electric and then not worry about it. Mamin says, any thoughts on new Civic Type R? I have many thoughts on it. Civic has never really done what I wanted to do for a Type R. They can't seem to kind of go at it all the way in. They always kind of stop themselves. They always go a little bit far enough and then stop. Or they make it too hard. A couple of generations ago, I was like driving a tank. It was so hard. Actually, tanks are pretty comfortable to drive. But it was very, very difficult to drive the thing. And I'm old. And I just wasn't into the whole bone-shaking experience of a Type R. I wanted something that's interesting. The newer one is actually quite nice. I'm looking forward to spinning. The brand new one is coming out as well. Very hard to say where they're going to go with that because, everything's moving towards electric. And these kind of Type R versions that are coming out are not necessarily needed by the public, nor are they even wanted, some of them. When you guys meet for a car review, do you all get on? Is like all start Le Mans running for a car? You mean on international trips? Yeah, pretty much. We get on with it. See, I think a lot of newer people into the system don't realize we all know each other. Like there is no one reviewing cars in Ireland, picking up cars in Ireland for test as a journalist that I don't know and doesn't know me, because there's so few of us. We all know one another. And so some people come in with their like elbows out, I'm going to be the best car reviewer in the year. And they usually only last 2 or 3 months. And then they kind of disappear because unless you kind of feel your way into what way it's running, because we have a sort of, not I won't say a union, but we have a group that we get together on, and we talk and understand what the rest of the journalists are doing, and we try and learn from each other. We try and do stuff, do things within the system to make things interesting for ourselves, as well as keeping car companies within reach. You have to be very careful, because car companies just dispose of you and then they don't send you any more cars, and then suddenly you're all on your own, just out there because your channel's not big enough, or your following's not big enough, or your publication, or whatever way their metric is. We don't really pay attention to that. David Harrington doesn't really like me. So David Harrington, would you put your full name up there? Thanks, David. I'll Google you later on. You're some tool. You think you're best and very snobbish towards smaller creators on TikTok. Am I, David? Really though? Really? You think that? Good for you, David. Glad you have an opinion. You have to admit Tesla software is still much better. By far. Tesla software and the charging network and the charging systems within it are by far world leaders. Everybody else will have to catch up on that one. That's kind of where that's going. And they will catch it. Eventually they'll catch up on that. Volkswagen software started off terrible in comparison to Tesla. It was like night and day, the two of them. But Volkswagen have now kind of pushed on a little bit more, and they're getting better with the software. Their version 2 stuff has been pretty good. But the way they charge and the way they manage their range is very good in Tesla. But everyone's caught up with it. I drove a Skoda from the north. The video will be out soon. I nearly have it finished. It's a very big video. I drove to the North Pole bar in Donegal to the South Pole bar in Kerry in one day, 510 kilometers, and I used the Skoda Enyaq to do it. So it's totally possible to do it. I had to stop for a charge on the way. It's totally possible to do it, but it is the software is very good. I literally clicked where I wanted to go, and the thing just brought me straight by a local charge point, and it was pretty efficient as well. So like ID5, the best I've ever seen on the screen was 12 kilowatts per 100 kilometers, which is pretty good. Tesla can do moderately better, but the gulf has come down a lot. I'm going to just ban you. Goodbye, Jones. You're just starting to bore me now. Multi-story Graham Cullen. Multi-story car park at Silverburn Shopping Centre south of Glasgow has dozens of charge points. They just want to give folk reasons to go to that shopping centre. While you're there, sort of moment, there is that moment of, like, I hate when I go to IKEA, which I've said for years, and again, I got shot down on that one. I said for years, what we need to do is see charge points everywhere, right? Everywhere. That's, if you see them, you become used to them, and there's no problem after that. So what we need to do is have charge points all over the place. So it's very disappointing when you drive into IKEA and there's no charge points, although they have plans to put in. So maybe they put in a couple, but not very many of them. And yet across the road in Decathlon, which is in Dublin as well, they have 7 or 8 of the things standing beside each other. But you need to have your app out and start demo as well. So what we really need to do is have them in places that are useful, but we need useful speeds at them as well. So when you're in a big shopping centre like Whitewater in Newbridge or something large, and you might be going to be spending a couple of hours there, they should be 22 kilowatt chargers, 7.5 kilowatt chargers. Any of them will do me fine. I just feel like I'm getting a top up, even though I won't get it much. I feel like I've gotten something while I'm there. If I'm going to be there for 2 hours, and I might spend 3 hours there because I know if I spend 3 hours, I can get a bigger charge on it, right? So it works in a business point, but it's very expensive to put them in. That's the biggest problem. It's very expensive. I've lost my train of torque. What a great name. Good advice as always. No problem at all. Bob, do you know what price store heifers are fetching in Mullingar Mart this week? No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know nothing about animals or any of that sort. So that's not my wheelhouse. Bob, when do you think the cost of EVs is going to become affordable in Ireland? It's the second-hand market will make them more affordable over time rather than the new car market. New car market's always going to be expensive because they raise the prices and people bought them. That's what it really happened. So they raised the price. So the average kind of car, 25 or 30 grand was an expensive car one time. Now 50, 60 grand is an expensive car, right? So we've moved them on by 20 or 30 grand and people are buying the stuff. So why would they lower the price? If you keep buying the cars, they're going to keep on selling the cars at those prices. So you got to stop buying the cars at the higher prices. Like the Nissan Ariya thing coming out at nearly 70 grand. And that's because of the grant system here. It's not because the car was expensive in the first place. Hi, how much fast charging in our OI Green Community? Loads. We've a lot of fast chargers. They're not all working would be the biggest gripe I would have. So you get there and you find they're not working. But the rest of them are actually pretty good. Like they are in kind of the right places. They just get stretched out a lot all over the place. So the further west you get, the less of them you become. So much so when you go to Letterkenny, like there was 2 fast chargers in Letterkenny. There was a Tesla in it when I got there first. And there was a PHEV and another one, and he was parked in such a way that I couldn't get to the other side of the. It's so frustrating to get in. It was in such a bad place that they put this charger nearly on the street, and it's kind of in the back of the thing, and you can't get 2 cars beside each other. It's so difficult. My mum was driving a PHEV SUV thing. It was driving me nuts. But like Letterkenny, basically no electric cars. A Tesla was visitors. They weren't from the local area. Sun O'Donoghue, that's a long name, sorry. With my 2021 EV Nero, I just plug into the wall socket when I get home at 5 p.m. It's back up to 90% by 6 a.m. Ready for the to work again. Love EV driving. I don't mind that either. It's the safest thing to do is to have a proper charge point for your car. This is what I hear from electricians, that it's not terribly safe to just charge your car from a 3-pin plug, even with a granny cable. You put a lot of strain on that little plug on the wall. It was never designed to supply that much power to you the whole time. So it's dangerous over time. Well, I won't say dangerous, but it's certainly frowned upon. And plus, when you tell someone they can charge with a 3-pin plug, they tend to go, well, okay, I'm going to plug in my extension lead to the 3-pin plug, stretch out my cable out through the window and start charging my car from it. Which again, coiled cables can cause heat and there's all kinds of downsides. You should get a proper charge point put in. Plus, they're faster. 7.5 kilowatts versus maybe, if you're lucky, 3. My town has 2 7-kilowatt chargers above the maximum stay sign of 2 hours with no return. So it causes a sense of humour. It's stupid, Wayne. The rules and regulations. See, the rules have been made by people who don't drive EVs. Okay, so they're the people making the rules. The ones who aren't using them on a daily basis. I read a brilliant joke online. This man was saying about apps that were being built. People who build an app for your phone, sit in a beautifully lit office on a laptop working on your app, and then they test it on the laptop, or they test it on a mobile phone, or even on a laptop using something in perfect conditions. And then when you're actually using it, though, you're out on the street walking around the place trying to tap in something. And he said, this was his own quote, he said, someone walking with a mobile phone in their hand has the same level as ability to be able to tap things on the screen as someone with Parkinson's disease standing still. So you're like someone who has Parkinson's trying to type it in. So most of these apps things don't really work. So the idea the council has of just putting these chargers in and then tell you can only stay for 2 hours, and it's a 7-kilowatt charger. You're going to get nothing in 2 hours anyway. Have you tested Daisy Spring? No, I haven't tested it just yet. It's still not in Ireland yet at the moment. I don't know why. Ocean Foggy has a prices there for 43 cents for 50 kilowatt, 46 cents for 150 kilowatt. True enough, boy. It's expensive for 150 kilowatt. Super chat. Thank you very much, Aidan Manelli. Thank you very much for that. You're very kind. If you're going for a car that's affordable to drive and maintain, would you get an ICE or an EV? Right now, I'd buy an EV. There's just some good EVs in the market now. They're all pretty interesting EVs. If you're buying, now it's the top end of the market. The kind of lower end of the market, there isn't much. There really isn't. So if you've only got, I don't know, 30 grand to spend, I would probably stay away from EVs. There's just not much in that range unless you're buying something secondhand. And then there's very few secondhand cars out there right now that are EVs. So I would hang tight and get that. If I had about 30 grand, I'd probably buy something from internal combustion, some sort of petrol thing or a diesel thing, and just be happy with it for the next 5 or 6 years. But if I had enough and I was going for PCP maybe or something, or going that sort of route, I'd just go straight up for EVs. New Kia electric video is a great car. It looks awesome. It was good crack. It was a really good trip actually that I was on. I really enjoyed that stuff. Just wild to go to Sweden and see how it all runs there. Totally different vibe, but very similar to Norway, but different vibe from Ireland entirely. Is renting an EV in Ireland a good idea or even possible? You can. There is some of them that offer EVs for you to buy or to rent. So it is possible to buy them. I think the one that does the hourly rate, I can't even know what they're called now. I can see their little logo there, the green logo. There's a one that does an hourly rate. They can do some EVs, but I think it's subject just to availability. There's not many EVs in the market. There's like a year's waiting. As you buy an EV now, you might not get that delivered till next year. So if that's the case for you, it's the case for all those hire companies as well. And Neil Hennigan, thank you very much for the couple of dollars there. You're very kind. Listen, we've come to the end of the show. You're very good. It's just coming up to 4 o'clock. What a show. I am going to be tonight. I am going down to, I keep thinking of Letterkenny. Don't ask me why I keep thinking of Letterkenny. I was only in it the other day. But where I'm going tonight is, of course, Enniscorthy Promenade tonight at 6 p.m. A bit of a car meet down there. Some of the guys are going to park up and have a look around. If you're in around Enniscorthy to see them, drop in. I'll be there from about 6 o'clock. I don't know how long that lasts or whether we're going somewhere else from there or what we're doing after that. I have no details at all. Leinster Car Scene literally put it onto their, you can see my little logo there at the top. They put it onto their Instagram page and asked me to come down. So I'll be down tonight for that. Next week is a kind of a busy week. I have a huge Skoda Enyaq video coming out. I drove an Enyaq for essentially from the top of Ireland to the bottom of Ireland. That's coming out tomorrow. Nearly finished in the edit. It's been a big edit because like 3 or 4 cameras and drones and all kinds of stuff. And I'm also going to be doing some more electric car challenges this year as car companies have gone, yeah, do you know what? I don't think you'll be able to drive all around Ireland in that car. So I'm going to do that as well. It's all happening at the same time. And it's been a wonderful Sunday service. It's actually after flying by. I'm so surprised how quick. I thought it was going to be difficult to bring back the Sunday service, but just as many people here as there is always here. So it's been absolutely phenomenal to have you aboard. Thank you very much for joining me on today's Sunday service. I hope you're going to have a lovely week coming up. We're coming up to back to school as well. Don't mention that to the kids. The back to school is starting to start paying attention now. We bought uniforms the other day. Very important that you get the uniforms up and running. But thank you very, very much for watching. And until the next time, take care of yourself, by the way. And until the next time, I will see you on the far side. Well, that just stopped. Did it work? Yeah. I hope it worked.